Hey guys, Bruce Kittle here. Just want to do a little push. Just finished a podcast with Casey Beathard. If you don't know who Casey Beathard is, he's the father of CJ Beathard, who was a freshman with George at the University of Iowa. CJ and George are both playing in their 9th year in the NFL, so we've known the family for a really long time. Casey is more famously known, though, as one of the kind of figureheads of songwriters out of Nashville. So we're really thrilled to have Casey on the show. We talked about our 3 core focus areas about navigating transitions, finding healing, and reaching optimal performance. One of the things about Casey, though, he's in the Hall of Fame in Nashville. He's had 14 #1 hits, or maybe a couple more if I miscounted, and 25 top 10s plus. 30 years in the industry, and one of the tainting or kind of impacting factors, one of his sons was stabbed and killed in Nashville in December of 2019. So conversation looks at some of those issues around those 3 core things, and how the journey has been for Casey. So he's very heartfelt, very transparent about all the things that happened in his own resistance and stubbornness, and the things that he has leaned on in order to find his own path toward healing and kind of his own resurgence in the kind of creative community here. So I think you'll really enjoy the show. Thanks to Casey for being a part of it, and we look forward to letting you see this and enjoy it. So thank you. Hey guys, Bruce Kittle here with the Hidden Pearls podcast. I am here at the barn, George's workout facility outside of Nashville, and I am super excited to be here with Casey Beathard. Casey, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, absolutely.
So this is really great. And actually, I'm really excited. So we've had Nashville Connect. You've been here forever. We'll get back into your story, but and actually, it's your fault that we're here. Your family's fault, pretty much.
Is.
You know, so George ended up here. He's outside of Kingston Springs, and we know each other because of our 2 sons. We're both freshmen together at the University of Iowa. And then it was CJ who lured George down here to get some workouts in because he wanted to throw with the quarterback and all that kind of stuff after they were both with the Niners. So, but Casey, we're going to get into his story in a second, but he is one of 3 kind of, I thought once we were getting going on this, we would do kind of a trilogy. So I've got 3 really good songwriter musicians coming up. So in addition, we've got Jake Owen we're doing this weekend, and then also Adam James. So we're really thrilled to have that. So anyway, so Casey, I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for joining us at the barn, and looking forward to it. So it's really exciting. So
thank you.
It's fun to see you. I haven't, we chatted a little bit text here and there over the years, but you know, different lives and all that. So, so anyway, so back in 2012, our boys were freshmen. Went to the University of Iowa, and it is amazing. We were talking before we got on that now here we are 13 years later, and they're both in year 9. And, you know, during the years at Iowa, who knew what was really going to happen? You know, that was just its own journey. And then here we're both sitting here with sons with 9 years in the league, which we both know is way over the top, you know, for those careers. So. Yes. Anyway, so super excited. We're really, really, really good about that. So, and I'm one of those guys. So I listened to a lot of country music growing up, especially my dad and I, and we would build decks and construction. So we'd always have like a speaker box outside, and we'd mostly, because country's kind of easy to listen to the whole day, you know what I mean? And so, but I was never one of those folks that, you know, who wrote this or who were the, you know, I mean, I knew some of the singers and all that stuff, but not. But anyway, once we got to know Casey and the family through CJ, then all of a sudden, the whole story started coming out. And so by then you'd written Boys of Fall and No Shirt, No Shoes, and had a lot of, with Kenny and a bunch of other stuff going on. And that was all pretty cool. So anyway, we kind of circling back here. So I'm going to just touch base. Let's see. So yeah, Boys of Fall, that was the #1 hit, right? And then No Shirt, No Shoes in 2002. And so let me just, and I know you're going to kind of go, we don't have to go through all this, but I want to, because I'm just going to personally, as I was getting through this, like I knew, like, you know, cognitively in my head, the success that you've had in your, you know, profession between singing and songwriting, and I think a little bit of producing too, right?
Yes, a little bit. Yeah.
So, but like when you put it all on one list, it's a lot of stuff. So I'm just, so you were, let's see, the BMI and NSAI, I don't know what they are, but I'm sure they're big, high puffy country music things. But you were Songwriter of the Year in 04 and 08. You've written songs for Kenny Chesney, George Strait, Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, Tim McGraw, Eric Church, Trace Atkins, Rodney Atkins, Leanne Womack, Tracy Lawrence, Tracy Bird, Chris Stapleton, Garth Brooks, Billy Ray Cyrus, and I think Miley's in there too, right? She sung one with him. But anyway, Billy Currington, Justin Moore, the brothers Osborne, and of course, Tucker Beathard.
Yeah. It's been pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You have over 25 top 10 records, recordings, including 14 number one recordings.
Man, somewhere in there, yeah.
Somewhere, it might be more, I don't know. So that's, anyway. Okay, won a Grammy for the CCM hit There Was Jesus, sung by Zach Williams and Dolly Parton. And then you were inducted to the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2023. And then, of course, Tucker has followed in the footsteps, right? And so singer-songwriter and signed to DOT Records, or DOT, is that it? Okay. All right, now, the other thing, though, we're going to kind of, and this is where I think the story is super interesting, and we'll kind of weave through this a little bit. Yeah. But how football has been such a huge part of you guys' life, as well as music. And so I think that's really cool. So your father, and we talked about this a long time ago, but so CJ, now with the Lions, but you're also the son of Bobby Beathard. And so some of you may not know that history. I know it only too well. So Bobby Beathard is an NFL Hall of Famer. That's your dad. And you grew up running around NFL teams and doing all that kind of stuff. He was GM at Miami, Washington, and the Charger, and he retired with 7 Super Bowl rings.
Yes.
And everybody thinks like Tom Brady has a lot, but like that's a big deal. That's a lot of winning. And he was also, so he was at Washington Redskins, and that's what they were called back then. When I came out of college, I'd been over a knee injury, and I was kind of an iffy, but I was a late kind of free agent sign, and then went, and then eventually got cut, before the end of camp. But it was your dad back then that signed me and cut me. And so I always kind of remember that, how that went. But anyway, that's just the way it goes. But that was all pretty cool. So
yeah, and I don't know who the coach, who that would have been, Gibbs back then. Okay.
Yep. That was actually because the next year they went and won, the fall I was there, that was with the Hogs up front, all those giant O-linemen. That's when they were really the team that pushed. Everybody jumped over 300 pounds all of a sudden. Everybody had been kind of in that 275, 280, and they were wall to wall, I think, except for the center. Everybody was like 3.
Well, yeah, they had I remember that. I laugh about that now, and they used to call them the Hogs, and I know their center was 260.
Yeah.
But
their big 2 tackles were.
Russ Grimm was like 280 something, 270, and that was big.
That was big.
But their tackles were 300, and that was gigantic.
That was gigantic back then. So yeah. Anyway, and that was the group I was working out with, and I was not, I was like about 280 in college, and so that was.
I always want to apologize for him, and I always like to think that, and I remember this story. That was one of the first stories you ever told me when I met you, and I was thinking, man, I knew Joe and my dad had a pretty good relationship. He liked Dad for the personnel part, but they try not to. He would sit in meetings and draft meetings and cut meetings and things like that, but leave it to them to decide what was fit, that was good for them.
Sure. Yeah.
So I hope you don't. I hope you can forget. I hope you don't hold it against him for being a.
Oh no! It's all business. You know what? He did me because then I got into college coaching.
Yeah.
It was all a good path for me. I was never gonna. I was not. I honestly, I should have been more of a tight endish, but wasn't as fast, and so I had to go to the offensive line. So no, it was all good. He did me a favor of hanging around and doing all that stuff. So no, I adjusted and kind of moved on.
I look back at all these things. It's kind of funny, You think like that, like he did me a favor. Where we wind up. Anything I thought back then or what I would ever wanted, I realize now it's like, man, it's just so, it worked. Yeah. I think it just worked out exactly like it's supposed to in my life and in all of our lives when I look back through our lives and go.
I think we'll talk some more about that, but that's one of the lessons of life, I think, as we get older. So I'm 66 now and you're 50 something.
I'm 59, I'll be 60 in a couple months.
Yeah, okay. And I think by the time we get to this point, we realize that, some doors open, some doors close, and all that. And actually, I've got a book started called Open Windows, and it's all about these pathways that come to us. And some we take, and some get closed, and we don't, and some we don't even know are there. because we're not paying attention. And so, I always look back on that as like, my body wasn't quite ready. And then just being with everybody, 280 to 320, it's like, this ain't quite my deal. Like I'm maybe, but like I kind of like it was okay. So yeah, when that happened, I was kind of like, it kind of let me emotionally cut those ties, and like give up that part of the dream.
That's hard to do, but
yeah, but and sometimes we need a little push to kind of see the reality of life. So it's okay. So, but anyway, so no grudge against your dad at all. They were all doing good. All right, and then you played football at Elon University in North Carolina, and you must have been a quarterback.
It was Elon College back then.
Okay.
Where there, I couldn't play there now at all. I was a receiver, little slot guy. Yeah. I returned punts, kickoffs, and a slot receiver.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun. It was great. Just just something that I figured I had to do or wanted to do when you grow up in it, and you just love to do it. And so, but at the same time, my mother was into music, and that's where I literally started my whole love for making up songs and getting into music at the same time when I wasn't on the football field. Right. Was that. That's
with your mom?
Yeah, my mom was very musical and just always on the piano. And she and I shared the relationship of music and the love of music. Yeah. And so growing up, it was kind of weird. I trace it way back to that going, it's crazy how me and my siblings and I, the other three, I was always the one with mom doing that, and they were out doing whatever they did. Yeah. And it's just crazy how it manifests later on in your life, So,
well, yeah. What a wonderful gift, though, that your mom had those gifts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that you were able to access that,
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's wonderful. That's just, no, we were talking about that too, just how if you think too hard about it, it kind of just blows your mind, but like all the little ways in which life interweaves.
Yeah.
And how the magic just kind of unfolds.
That's right.
If you're not clinging too tight, or
that's right.
You know what I mean? If you're just kind of going with the flow and see what's coming, it all works out pretty good. Well, that's a gift. Okay. Let's see then. So we had CJ in, and then Tucker's in music, and then be remiss if we didn't talk about Clayton just a little bit with Clay. Yeah. So he was playing QB at Long Island University.
Yes.
And then in December 2019 was stabbed in an incident in Nashville.
Yes.
And so we'll kind of like circle back to that, but that was part of the family. So you and Susan been married a long time. And is it true, I saw a piece that you met her at the Johnny Cash Museum?
It was the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay.
I put everything in, especially now my life has come around to just more grounded in the just my faith in the Lord and God and Jesus. And I look back at the story and I just go, it's such a God thing. When I moved to town, I drove to town with a buddy that I knew from college, met him in college. He lived in DC. So he's like, wait, you really going to go to Nashville? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go there. I got a guitar and a TV in my truck. I'm driving down there, And he's like, what are you going to do? And I go, I don't know. I'm going to see what happens. And then, he goes, I'll ride with you. My family has a farm in West Tennessee, about 2 hours west of Nashville. Well, I'll ride with you. And I said, okay. We rode down. I rode right through Nashville. I was like, oh, this is it. I don't know where you'd start. But anyway, we kept going, went all the way to Lexington, Tennessee. He goes, my cousin has a farm out there, and we could stay there. There's a modular home trailer in this whole cattle farm, and we stayed there. And I'm sleeping in this little single bed, and Doug and I and Ben Jr. was his name, and he showed me around all that area, and out there, and I got to meet his family, and I stayed for about 4 days, and then Doug was like, man, I got to go back home, but here you are, and have at it.
Right.
I was like, what am I doing out here? I mean, nobody's going to look for a singer out here in a country.
It's a ways from Nashville.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm out there anyways. After a while, Doug goes home, and I'm like, man, I got to go. I got to go to Nashville. I come driving to Nashville. I have about $800 or $900 saved, and I could put it on an apartment. And I found a little condo apartment for $300 a month. I paid three months, and then found a job at the Country Music Hall of Fame. paid minimum wage, and I could work in the gift shop and in the mail order. And I'm doing that, and I'm running back to grab something out of mail order, and I noticed this girl, she's giving a tour in the Johnny Cash exhibit.
Oh, okay.
And I walked by, so that was the thing.
Okay.
And every time I hear that train a coming, there's Susan. I see her in my mind, you know, that's when I met her. And anyways, I noticed her, and you just become friends. And next thing you know, we're hanging around each other. And finally, we're hanging out. And then a few months later, Doug, my old buddy, said, hey, called up because I got to go back down to the farm. You want to ride down there with me? And I go, man, I do. I have this weekend off because I got a second job at the Bluebird Cafe, working in the kitchen and doing trash cooking and everything else. But I got to go down there this weekend. You want to ride with me? I'm like, sure. He comes down and he comes by my apartment. Now I got a couple of roommates in there. I'm in a new place. This actually, it had to be after about a year in Nashville, that area. So Susan comes by while he's there, and I introduce him, and I say, hey, Doug, this is Susan. Susan, I'm hanging around Susan, and she goes, oh, what are y'all gonna do? I go, we gotta ride to West Tennessee and all this stuff. And she goes, oh yeah, well, you know. I go, yeah, but you're from West Tennessee, aren't you, Susan? She goes, yeah, I'm from McKenzie. And she goes, where are y'all going? We're going to Lexington, on the other side of the interstate. And she's like, oh, my mom used to date a guy there. And long story short, she used to date Ben Jr. And the bed I slept in, the very first night I ever slept in Tennessee, was the same bed Susan used to sleep in as a little girl when her mom used to see this guy in this modular home that Doug and I drove down into that. Is that
That's crazy.
That is just, you can't make that up.
No, just ran it from the museum.
So then it was just like, from there on, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to pay a little more attention to what this whole thing is.
Yeah.
Sure. So it was pretty amazing. Yeah. So I met her. Yeah. Long story short, that's how I met Susan.
Okay.
And it's
took right off.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So that's in 1990.
1991-ish. Yeah, yeah.
And then married shortly thereafter.
Yes, we got married not long after. We had CJ not very shortly after that, and a bunch of roommates. And we didn't have any idea what we were doing, but we made it work. But we had a few roommates, and had CJ. Then we had Tucker and Clay shortly after that. Still had 3 or 4 roommates in a place that, because we couldn't afford, and we're having the kids at the house because we didn't have any insurance or money. And we used to, I remember when Clay and Tucker were born, we just kind of keep all the guys, stay down there, stay out of this edge near our bedroom because Susan's having a baby today and you guys got to be quiet. And all. It was crazy. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how we got by or how we did it, but it was just, man, it was just, I look back and that was a really, really good time. Yeah. It was a great time.
I know. In the midst of it, you think it's just all chaos and crazy and you're paycheck to paycheck. But then once you move way past, 20 years later, you kind of go, that wasn't all that bad.
No, it was so simple. Especially without all the phones and all the stuff. We didn't know what we didn't have.
Yeah.
So this is how we did it, and it was great. Yeah.
It's hard to be less than fully content if you don't understand all the things you don't have. So it's all good. Okay. Well, then the family. Okay, so you got Susan. I'm glad we got the backstory there. And your mom. And then, so 3 sons, 2 daughters, and now you're grandfather to 5 kids, 3 boys and 2 girls. Okay. Anything I missed in all of that? We're good to, okay, we got a background. All right. And then I had us just a little bit about, we chatted a little bit about Iowa, but any big memories about that? And I guess where I really want to, well, let's just see that. So, because CJ comes up, and I know he was recruited and ended up choosing the University of Iowa. But I think, listen to his story, was about, I think he felt like he had a better chance to play there in through football, or
yeah, and it was a really, again, it just I think it was just supposed to be. When you're in high school, he got recruited in his junior year, the baseball season of his junior year, and when you grow up, born and raised around here, the SEC, in any close proximity SEC school, that's where you go. That's just what you do. And if you can get to, he got recruited by Ole Miss immediately, and had a little workout for their offensive coordinator during baseball season. Or he said, you know, it'd be nice if you happened to be out there throwing when I came over. And they arranged something.
Yeah, I know. That's how that
goes.
Because they can't schedule it because they're still in high school and all that. But
so he did that, and they offered him a scholarship, and it was over. I mean, it was it. You know, he was like, okay, done. Book closed. I'm going to Ole Miss, and that was ideal for him. And it was, you know, that was kind of like this. That was literally crazy. And then the middle of his senior year, when Ole Miss was having a tough year, you know, we thought that Houston Nutt and David Lee was the recruited him. We thought they'd be all right because they had such big contracts, and actually we were reassured that by Coach Nutt. And I think it was the very next week they lost. They were all fired. And here it was like November, and when they finally hired a new coach. Yeah. And for me, it was a weird thing because like CJ was totally oblivious. He didn't care. He's like, I'm going there. I mean, it's already done, and I've already got all this Ole Miss. I got all the shirts. I got everything. And I'm like, okay, but it's not that easy, you know. I don't know where this guy comes from and what they like and what they want. My gut, and especially Susan's gut, when we got the new coach and their people wanted to bring in all the recruits and, you know, meet with them. Yeah. When I met with them and I left, I was like, okay. Susan goes, I don't know. I don't feel it. And I go, well, what are we gonna do? What are you gonna do? And she goes, I just don't feel it. And it felt like, and I think I brought it up later on in this thing, kind of like, you know, just an inheriting a class that was not my class, but we're gonna honor it. And that's what the coach was talking about. No, we're gonna honor it. It's too late in the game anyways, basically. So we're gonna keep these guys. But they just weren't there. It wasn't their guys, you know. And then he got a couple transfers you know. So I was trying to tell CJ, and I ended up telling his coach at his school, at his high school. He said, how'd the new meeting go? And I go, man, coach, I don't know, man. I go, he can go. He's gonna be welcome to go there, but I don't think it's gonna fit him. It's not what they do. It's a new system, that new system that he's bringing in, and he's just not that guy. And so they didn't say that, but I just felt it. Yeah. And he didn't hide it that much either. Right. He said, well, it's late in the game, Casey. Shoot, 3 months is you know, signing day. Right. He goes, but I know a guy that I used to play with at Vandy that is coaching up at Iowa. And I was like, Iowa?
Where's that?
Yeah, where's that? Not the college. I didn't know where the state was.
No, I'm with you.
But anyways, I said, yeah, I think anything. Put it out there. And anyways, then immediately Coach O'Keefe called. And he said, can I come in and just look and snoop around? And we're like, absolutely. And the CJ was like, what is this about? No, this is like, I feel like I'm cheating on a girl. No, Dad, no. I was like, but just hear people out. Just test it out. Right. Gosh. You know, and he's like, man, you know. Anyways, Coach O'Keefe came, and I know he felt the difference between someone I don't know, man. It was just a different feeling, they cared about anything. They were just a different, you know, how they do things there. They just do things differently there. Yeah. Like they don't care about your size or your thing or whatever. They like you to compete, be in everything. Yeah, man, there were things that he noticed about CJ, how he did things that, I love that about you. he didn't see anything else, and was like, oh, that's kind of nice.
Because he wanted.
Yeah, it was. I felt he was wanted,
Like they really.
as opposed to, yeah, we'll take you.
Yeah.
Anyways, long story short, we went up there and went on a visit, and I think that official visit is where we met y'all. Mm-hmm. And man, I was blown away. Grateful that it wasn't crazy cold. It was pretty cold, but I was like, see, it's not even that bad. It was like 20-something degrees, but it was kind of still snow on the ground. And CJ was like, dang, it's cold up here. I go, this is nothing. It gets this cold back at home. And I was like, and I'm thinking, you have no idea how cold it's going to be.
I know, man. It's going to be cold, dog. I know.
But I was like, thankfully, it wasn't that bad. And he met some great people, and we left. And I think his mind was like, I think he knew, but he was like, oh, I don't want to do this. Yeah, anyways, yeah. And at the end of the day, he was really, really frustrated that it got to that point. But one day he was walking out the door. It was signing day, and he had to make a call and make a, had to sign, do all the faxing and all that stuff. And he was walking out of school, and he was mad. And I was like, hey, buddy, what do you think you're going to do? It's like, I know what I'm going to do. I was like, well, can you tell me? And he's like, it's just, he goes, I'm going to do what I need to do, not what I want to do. And I was like, dang. And he left, and I knew what he was going to do. And that's it. It was just a growing thing, and it was, and it turns out it didn't take long for him to go, man, it just was so right.
Yeah, it was a good fit. Right. So, yeah, well, there you go. Yeah. And so then old CJ's off. Yeah. And we all met, and you're right. It gets a lot colder in Iowa than here.
I went up to visit him not long out in that year where he and George and all them were living together. And I went up there, and I knew he found a home when I went up to visit, and he wasn't playing or anything, but just to comfort him and be with him. And when he came out to fix a moped, they all came out. It was like, he and a couple guys and George, and they came out to fix a moped, and CJ had shorts on. It was February. He had shorts on and a hoodie. Yeah. And I went, wow. I literally sat in the car and watched them fix a moped with the heat on. And I looked at him, and I was talking to Susan. I was like, he's going to be all right.
Yeah, he adjusted to the cold.
He's in shorts out here, and it's like, it's got to be 60 below. I don't know what it is.
So George, when he called today, and because he's excited, about that, he just called, and then he goes, Dad, do you remember the story that you told Casey about how you guys always treated quarterbacks? I don't know if you remember this.
I don't.
Because when they moved into 530 Miller, and so we, as offensive line, we took it, you're always protecting your quarterback. Yeah. But yet you're also responsible for making sure that they don't get too full of themselves. So sometimes you got to kind of slap them around a little bit and all that kind of stuff. And so anyway, I didn't really remember, but George told me, he goes, yeah, I think I was there when you were telling this story about how you guys used to beat up on quarterbacks, and that now that they're moving in, that, George and the guys would probably be putting a beating on CJ. And then he said that then Casey goes, well, he's going to have to hit first. And he said, I looked at you and go, well, he better make it a good shot, because if they get up, they're going to kick his ass or something like that. And I was like, anyway, but that is the thing about quarterbacks. They have a very unique personality type. Yeah. And so anyway, so we always like that. So, okay. Well, good on CJ. So, and I know you're very proud of him, as I am with George, and it's unbelievable that they're in their 9th year and all that kind of stuff. Just thinking about that, I mean, I think you've already kind of hit. I just circling back to, because we're going to talk about the transitions piece in life, and certainly for both of our kids, because George, Iowa kind of called once or twice, a month before signing. Yeah. And it was all Kenny O'Keefe. It was all about Kenny, because I knew Kenny from days back and all that kind of stuff a little bit, and then and it was the same thing. And then they said, look, we got 3 offers out. We got to get 2 running backs, and if we don't fill it. And they only had 2 scholarships left. So we think, okay, so it looks like, whatever. And then then they called that morning about 9 or 10 and said, we only got one running back. We have one scholarship left. We'd love to have George join us. And so that was that story. So it was all, and again, I know Kenny, that's what, because we were told later, put his name on the board and just said, look.
That was the same thing with him as like CJ. I think it was the last thing. They were waiting on a guy.
Yeah.
I think he went to Iowa State, a lineman that ended up going to Iowa State. Oh, okay. Some guy, and they're waiting on him. And if he doesn't, then this is yours, right. And that.
So anyway, it's all good. So there we are. So, well, and then let's just keep this theme alive because, so I think we all learned quite a bit about patience and what it takes to work and then get your spot and then, how to fill in and do all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot about the Iowa experience that I think set both our kids up. That as much as Iowa, it's a lot of work and it's a grind, the way they approach things and all that kind of stuff. But I always felt like they were very well coached and they were prepped for what the NFL requires. I really felt that about George. And particularly for George, like just in offensive line, like run blocking and all that kind of stuff. Like a lot of guys go out and tight ends have not really, done outside zone or gap schemes and all that kind of stuff. I mean, George probably in college had 10,000 reps at outside zone. You know what I mean? Like over and over and over, because that's what the inside drill, 18 plays a shot, and all that kind of stuff, just crazy work that way. But but the other thing though is, I mean, physically and the technique, but like that mental thing about, I know I can do this. Like, no matter how hard you try to make it and all that shit, it's just like, you're not gonna. So I think that kind of prepped them, and I feel about that. And then they had enough success where I know they believed in themselves, the 12-0 year and all that kind of stuff. And so there were a lot of great benefits about that whole piece. Plus, they all got butt tats, with 530.
That's right.
So it's all good.
That's right. That's
so anyway, all right. And then we'll circle back about, if we had more time, I'd love to hear about your writing during that period in those pieces. But certainly we have a connection here with football and music from your family history, and then with all of that going on, and with Tucker and what you were doing and all that. So we're gonna, and actually when I pulled up the Boys of Fall, right underneath it on Spotify was a country music football playlist. It was nothing but country music songs about football, which was pretty cool. So I was kind of paging through that. So I didn't, so there is this big connection. And I think, country music and football go together pretty well. So anyway, and then I listened to Boys of Fall again this morning when I was getting a little workout in, and it like every time I hear that song, it takes me right back to my days in Cedar Falls and the chance to run on and all that kind of stuff. And so that magic. So, but let's push in because we got a little bit more to cover. And I can't, you're pretty expensive for me to have you here, but so anyway, okay. So our Hidden Pearls studio, so we have an app and we do, our key focus is we bring mindfulness, meditation, and movement, and primarily our two focus groups are veterans and athletes. That's kind of who we work with. So, and the things that we have three focus areas that we work on, and they're navigating transitions, finding healing, and pursuing optimal performance. And so with veterans, a lot of times it's coming back after their service and transitioning back into civilian life and giving up the uniform and doing all those kind of things. And then the healing journey, and we're going to talk about that. I think no matter who you are, whatever category of life you're in, we all have elements, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual, whatever. Healing's part of that process. And a lot of folks that we work with really struggle with that. So I wanted to bring that into this. And then optimal performance is just, so obviously for athletes, it's, how fast can I run and how strong can I get and all that. But I think it's true for the rest of us as well. We all have goals and ambitions and all that kind of stuff. And so what does it take, for us to each perform at the very best that we can in our lives? And so we're structuring all of my fall and into the spring. We're kind of using those three themes to work through. So, and you've been very gracious to accommodate that. So, and then what I like to do, I started this with, a month or so ago, we did a podcast with Nick Lavery. And Nick is a Green Beret, and Nick is the only above the knee amputee to return to active Special Forces duty. Wow. And he's about 6'6", 280, and just ripped. But he comes walking in, and then he's got, his steel leg on, and just a really thing. But he wrote a book about Operation Secure, and that's like if you have an objective, and what it takes to get to that objective, and then they call it up secure once they've achieved that point. So if it's a land thing and they're trying to get a point, all that. But he loved all his chapters opened with a definition. So I did this for that podcast, and I thought it really worked well. So I'm going to just read a definition of transition, and then we could chat just a little bit about that, because like our age, we've kind of been through a lot in all this experience. So transition. A transition is a period of time when something changes from one state or condition to another. It's a change or shift from one thing to another. Transitions can be a sudden shift, but are often gradual processes that involve a period of adjustment and transformation. They can be marked by uncertainty, challenges, and growth. How's that fit? Okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So like I said, in working with our folks and our veterans and everything, they struggle with some of these life's major transitions. And I found something that you went through that I think really fits into this. So I'm just wondering, though, in that struggle, and I know the answer, I think, as you face some life transitions, and obviously we talked about Clay, I mean, that's obviously one of them, but then you've been through a lot, and we're going to get into maybe a little bit more, but your transition to Nashville and then just all of your success and all that. But like, have you found some struggles in some of the transitions, and like, you know, from your end, what makes some of these life transitions so difficult? I'll just like one of them I've heard you talk about as the kids were getting older, you know, trying to protect and a little bit controlling and all that kind of stuff. And this whole thing you went through about learning control and letting go and all that kind of stuff. But so just like maybe, you know, what is so hard about transitions for people in life, and what have you experienced in your own life?
Well, I think what I have found in my life I look back through all of my years, even since I moved to Nashville, and meeting Susan and everything, and when you talk about transition, it's like, I think the hardest part is thinking that we're in control so much. I think we think we're in, is realizing that we're really not in control, and to be able to just take every day as it is, as you just navigate today rather than looking down the road so far. I wish I knew so many of these things then,
Right.
You know, and I think when I, like my first transition of moving to Nashville, I'm going, are you going to do that? Are you really, man, but what if? And then I remember people around me, and my dad was out in San Diego at the time, and going, wait, what are you going to do? I was in Virginia, and he's like, I want to go to Nashville. He's like, okay. And I'm grateful for like he's like, okay, well, you know, and I think he was trying to save me from that. Why don't you just do some scouting or get in the foot? And I was like, I can't do that, Dad. But I think he was trying to save me. He wanted to make me happy. And I was trying to figure out, well, should I do that or what? And thankfully at the time, it was easier just to know that there was something in me going, your rent is up. You've got to rent up your lease is up on this place in 6 months. You got no family, got no kids here. I mean, you got no wife, no whatever. What else are you going to do? And that was like a big transition thing. It's like, yeah, but what if? And for some reason, thankfully, we didn't have all the immediate feedback. But let's see what happens in Nashville when you go there, and how to, you know, so it was just kind of easier to just go, well, all right, that's what I'm going to do. And I just kind of went with it. But I think if you could just, I think if what I have learned mostly about the transition part is that the hardest part is thinking that we have control, and like we think about so much of the stuff we might have to lose if we don't, or if we do.
Yeah.
You know, but I have learned over my life that I can't do this alone. I remember when Susan we were having our first child, and for some reason she was more she had more of a relationship with God and Jesus than I ever did, and I just knew she had grown up in the church and these things, and I'd been in the church, and my mom would pray sometimes and point us to certain things, but I didn't grow up in a church. I did with football teams, every football team we were with, in every locker room I was in the Gibbs there, that was always about praying, and I'd had things introduced to me, so I learned. It was a weird thing, and when Susan and I got married and we were having a baby, for some reason I was like, well, maybe Susan, if we're gonna have a kid, this is gonna be a big transition. I don't know if I can handle this on what are some rules or some things, I think we probably ought to get in a church. And for some reason, that wasn't me. I was just thinking I need some structure, and when you're gonna need some help in this thing. So we got in the church, and that led to, it wasn't about the church, and it was just about learning how to, every transition I ever made was the ultimate, the biggest thing I've ever had to get through or navigate or in my career or with my kids or with my family was always a letting go thing, and just going, what do you know to do here? What is what?
Well, let me ask you about that.
Okay.
I mean, so I think one of the things people really struggle with is that there's two. So we always talk about there's four parts of the self, and one is knowing the self, and then healing the self, being the self, and then sharing the self. But the knowing the self part, I think, is people really struggle with because they don't spend enough time. And so when you kept tapping your chest, and we really believe in kind of an embodying, like you have to feel it and listen to it. So you had something in your heart that had opened you up to this music, the times with your mom, and you've been connected to it, and you've been listening to country music, and Nashville's the spot. But like, there's a million of those kids, young people out there. And there's a handful that decide to come, and there's only a minuscule of those that like make a living. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but tell me about though, how did you know in your heart of hearts, like what was your process? And like, how did you, like, was it just so clear and obvious to you, like immediately you just knew? Or like, how did that message come to you in a way that like, no, I'm going to move to Nashville, even though your family's a little worried about you, it wasn't clear, you didn't even have a job, you had $800 in your pocket, like, so what was that voice and how did you hear it?
Yeah, it was and a lot of it too, I look back, the biggest steps and the most getting through things I've had, the most success I've had has been through a surrender and not trying so much.
Right.
Just resting.
You have to lean in without grasping.
That's right. And all the trying I've ever done in my life, going, well, gosh, I gotta this. It's always been met with a crash on the floor. Right. It just always has. It's like, it's a crazy, you call it phenomenon thing, but I'm just gonna, I like playing music. I like this music thing and writing songs, and I've got a few songs that I like. People say I could sing all right. So there's a open mic thing. Tonight I'm going to go do that tonight. And it was just not even a trying thing. It was just probably more than anything to go out and drink beer and hang out with my buddies. And also I can get on stage and sing. Right. It might make $20 if you win this contest. And I started doing that. Then I started playing with this band, and it's just the one thing, just going with the first thing. It was just, right. It just happened, and then literally
being able to say yes to that first
man, I really love this. Yeah. It's really kind of fulfills me. I think it's a path, but I got to make money, and well, don't worry about the money, just do this. And then I remember there was one night. I just won this contest, and I went to the back of this bar, and there was a guy back there, and he said, this was up in Alexandria, Virginia, some country bar, and he goes, man, I've been watching you come in here all these weeks and for a while and months, and you sing pretty good, and that you played a song up there, and this is crazy too. It's like, so I went in there, and I decided to try out a song. My mom had just passed, and I wrote a song about her, one that I thought was good, and I'd played for some friends and stuff, and they were like, man, that's good. So I tried it out in that bar, and I played it that night. And it was about how much I loved my mom, and it was like the hook on the song was, there's a girl I like, but I can't give you my heart because my mom took my heart to heaven when she left. And it was a weird thing, and I sang that song, and I went back there, and this guy goes, man, I like that song. You write that? Yeah, and he goes, I've been watching you, and it wasn't me trying. I just did it, and the guy goes, you ought to go to Nashville. And I go, Nashville, huh? And he goes, yeah, that's where it all is. That's where country music. And I go, really? And it's crazy how I didn't know. I mean, I knew it. I love country music, but I didn't know where it all, how to do it.
This is before the Nashville move.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you.
So how do you get there? I wasn't even trying. It was some guy goes, you were just doing what I loved. And then some guy came and goes, you ought to go to Nashville. And I was like, is that where it is? I mean, how do you become a painter and make money? How do you become a singer, songwriter, a star? How do you do that? I don't know. So this guy, and it was just doing the stuff that you know to do that you loved without even trying. And then the seeds got planted.
Yeah.
And then I just believe that if you don't discount them and maybe take the next step out in those, and see what happens. I had nothing to lose, so I took off. And then the next thing was, you're gonna have a kid, a big transition. So how do you navigate that? What are you gonna do? I don't know. We don't have any money. We don't have any this, or don't have any, but there was just step into it. Yeah. Try, that's how I
take the first step.
Right.
And the next step will be revealed.
Right. Exactly.
I know, but so many people have so much fear, anxiety over trying to take that first step because they think about all the what ifs and all that kind of stuff. But you were able to skip through all that. You weren't afraid to jump up on the open mics. It was what you wanted to do. You had fun. As an author, his name is Joseph Campbell, but he talks a lot about just following your bliss.
Yeah.
Just finding the things that really make you happy.
Right.
And then finding a way to do that over and over. And then everything kind of comes to you if you're just being honest with yourself.
Yeah, I just didn't know any better, and the songs that I had, I didn't know any better. I got the jobs that the place that I want to go get, had to go make money. I didn't know any better. And next you're stepping into them. It was when you start coming in and people start going, man, okay, you're good. We want you over here, but maybe you ought to this or that. And if you really want the bigger money, the song ought to sound like this and ought to be that. I clear as day, you talk about transition. I remember it was some of those songs when I just didn't even know any better. The songs that I knew, I just, I wrote a song because I was chasing a record deal, and I got a record deal, and it kind of went away. But then Susan was having our second child, and I was like, man, I don't know if I need a record deal. And then I was venting to a friend of mine, and I ended up writing this song called Right Where I Need to Be. And it was a song about, I don't know if I want to be gone and trying to do that when I've got a couple of kids at the house. And so I just wrote about it. I didn't think it was a song for people out there. It was a song from my life. And when I was supposed to be trying to write songs and make money, next thing you know, that goes out, and that's the first song that I really had that really kind of took off and started a successful little trend. And people started, whenever you hit a worldly success spot, everybody goes, okay, what are you doing? He must have his fingers on the pulse of success. He knows what it is. So they start tapping it, and then and they start going to what, and then the target might move, and maybe, so you start aiming at that target, and I remember chasing it, going, man, this is nice, this is good, there's making money, and I want and I'm gonna chase the hit song deal.
Well, let me ask you about that. We have that in here later. It's not right here, but we're just talking about it, so it's all good. So I just wanted to, like, on the transition piece. So one, listening to your heart and following what you're passionate about. All right. I mean, I'm hearing that, and overcoming the fear and all that, which you didn't really have too much. We talked about letting go of control. So like, as soon as you put yourself in your truck and drove to Nashville, like it's like throwing a cork in the ocean, and there's Nashville, and you're going to get washed around a little bit, and all you can do is try to kind of keep your way, but you got to go with the current a little bit there.
Right.
Okay. And then I think in this one is like, that is always something that I think of the artists, especially songwriters. And so obviously you got to make enough money to live, right? And you're getting, you got kids popping out, and you guys are starting a family. But that the balance between what the industry or some producer or some singer like that, and when you were starting, the radio was still king, right? Streaming hadn't really.
Oh yeah, it was just that was the only.
Like everything was about getting spins on the radio,
Yeah.
and so
if you sold cassette tapes, CDs, records, and radio, that was the only way you could possibly make money.
And so, like, I just think about, though, like the song about your mom, or even this one, like, you write it from your heart, and it kind of comes out of you. So there's this creative, I always think of like this creative muse, this energetic spirit,
Right.
that it's really, it's part of us, but it's not us.
Right.
And it, like, if we're just flowing without grabbing it, because she can leave, she can be a little jealous. And so sometimes she walks out on you, but like in that creative spirit, but then you do that and you follow that, and then like you get, well, that's not quite right for us, or we don't think that's going to play. And so one, I think about the kind of the rejection to things that feel really heart-centered for an artist in that creative spirit.
Right.
And then how do you balance that? And then all of a sudden you have this, like, here's a few things that I think work for radio. So over the years, you obviously, and then the other question I have for you too in this, and so we'll just kind of, I always think too, like, Nashville feels like every 5 to 10 years, there's this, it rolls over. Like there's a change in artist, there's a change in style, there's a change in what plays and all that kind of stuff. And so I think all of that's in there. So as a writer, like, one, how do you balance what your heart tells you to write, both lyrically and with the music? And then how you are trying to fit that into, because it's got to get sold, or it's not a waste, but I mean, then you're not producing. So how does an artist in your situation, how did you balance that over the years?
That was tough. It was confusing. Here I was writing some things that really got me noticed, playing my songs that I moved to town with, because they were just life songs, real songs that I knew, where and then all of a sudden something hits, especially down the road, like 10 rounds with Jose Cuervo. You're sitting around, with some buddies, and somebody tells a story about, I'm not a big tequila drinker, I was a beer drinker, but that's it, And we wrote a fun song that I didn't think would ever be anything, and
it's a pretty fun song.
Yeah,
it's a great song,
and it's crazy. It just took me totally by surprise. I played it in a bar. I played it in the Bluebird one night because one of the co-writers was there. Hey, play that one, and I played it. I was like, yeah, whatever. I thought it was a silly song, and I played it, and somebody's manager was there. Tracy Bird's manager was like, man, we love that song, and let us record that. And I was like, just totally confused. I was like, man, that's not. I just think that's so lighthearted. It seems so, but I want to change the world, and I wasn't. Anyways.
Well, let me wait. So your songwriting style at that point maybe was a little bit more, you had a little bit more serious focus.
Yeah.
And kind of like songs about life and death and tragedy and love. Okay, and this is just a completely frivolous, a guy is upset over a girl and goes to a bar, and it's round 1 and then round 2. And I think at round 9 he starts, or at round 10 he starts all over again. And all
yeah, and it's like everything got forgotten, and life is good, and he's having a good time. Yeah. And that's okay, and that's probably where I was in my life too. Anyways, that was fun, Okay. But it was like.
But you didn't see that going to radio.
Like no, and then all of a sudden it took off, and then, I'll be honest, that's where that's where the balance starts. And all of a sudden it's like, the money, here's this.
Yeah.
And so you're going, dang. And so you start getting lured into it.
For sure.
Yeah, let's. You start thinking about. Then it starts becoming a trying thing. Now, I'm not saying I didn't get. Yeah, I got rewarded. Here's the difference: is like I got rewarded in the world for chasing, and I did. I started writing some of those songs, and man, we could have some, you know, and I've read and I've even read this. I've been reminded that, like, man, you've been kind of you've had the party mode guy, you know.
Well, there's a few out there, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I remember that was part of my life too. That's what I knew, you know. I've done a lot of things, and I went to college. I went to high school. I was in,
Yeah.
you know, I've been out there. So, and I had a blast going back to college at Iowa. Yeah.
It was.
As a fan, you know, and anyways, but
Well, isn't it hard to write those songs without having at least walked the path a little bit?
exactly, you have to.
I mean, for them to be genuine and authentic and have some truth.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have
And
some experience.
sometimes, you know, then it gets to a point, some like, it turned in like you said, and then there would be some redemption in the song too, you know, like even in the, you know, the Drinking Bone song, you know, I realize now that the more I drink, the more in trouble I get.
Yeah.
You know, one's too many and 12 ain't enough for me, you know, and that, you know, that's what it came to, and the songs kind of changed. But I found in the more trying, like the more success I started having in the world, I was like, I got so lost and going, man, it's not, you know, I look back with.
Tell me that. So from that first, I'm right where I belong. So you started getting some success. People kind of, okay, Casey Beathard's here, and you have some skills, you have some other stuff. And then there's this track, and then you start leaning into the radio a bit more. And when you say you got really lost, tell me, like, what time frame are we talking about? How many years is that? And then how did you realize the sense of, man, I'm off track here?
Yeah.
And then what was that realization? Then how did you move back from it?
Yeah, I think like between, I think it was 04 and 08, I won the songwriter of the year, and both times at these BMI, where they're a royalty collection company. They monitor all the performance plays you get on the radio, and whoever has the most songs on the radio and all these things, and they whoever has the most airplay gets songwriter of the year. So I was, yeah, I was, you know, I was the guy that people thought that I had the answers, you know. So when you're that guy, when you just all of a sudden get pointed out, you know, they're going to go, man, he must. There's a lot of analytics going on before there were analytics, you know. It was like
100%. You bet.
this is what the wide receiver, the quarterback looks like. Right. Well, let's get that guy, you know. So I fooled a lot of people for a little while there, but anyways, I did find that was probably after 08. It still lingered. It still went on, and actually, it still went on. And actually, 12. I was told I was going to get the songwriter again of the year, but I didn't. Some of these other people did, and I think from there on, because I was told, and I went to the award show thinking I was going to, but it didn't. And I remember the little bit frustration of going, wait a minute, how did this song not get that song did, and that's when I found myself going. The first time when I was like, dang, maybe is this over? Maybe what am I chasing? What am I trying to do? And I remember the letdown after that award show. Then I was coming back going, I should have been, because they didn't count that song. And I thought, it's got too much thinking about it. And
So
then it got to trying to get. I started trying. Then it was like I want to get back to that place. I'm like, what are they writing that I'm not? So I tried, and then it went south. I went through a period of there. Did you talk about, like, you know, just a dry spell?
Right.
And it was pretty hard.
Well, let me ask you this. So just so wrap that up. So in that 2012 experience where you didn't get it, and you thought you were, whatever I'm hearing, and just tell me, there was a sense of letdown, and frustration about not getting it and all that. But then there was almost this like, behind it, there was another sense of self that didn't feel very good about being let down by it. Like you would put yourself in a position that you're really striving for it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Why am I leaning into that? So why is that so important to me? And then so not getting it in a way almost seems like a little bit of a professional reset.
Right.
Like, okay.
It was a total reset.
Like I got to step back. How am I approaching my writing? And what am I shooting for? And why was that so important to me? Like I need to write for a different purpose almost.
And you know what? You sound like my wife. Honestly,
I'll take that as a compliment.
No,
She's
it was
a pretty
so
bright
good.
woman.
Yeah, she confronted me in that time. I was so down and frustrated. Like the songs I'm not getting these songs recorded like I used to. And if that's the song, then I'm trying to write. I think I'm writing it as well as that. And she goes, what is it? Where are you? What is driving you? What do you want? What fulfills you? Yeah. Remember when you moved to town and you weren't trying? You had your songs because you knew what to write.
Right.
She goes, go back to that guy. Remember that? Remember that guy that she just said, she goes, what drove you to Nashville? Right. Move back to that song. And I was like, huh. So that's when I got back in the, I need to get away from, I need to get away from just listening to the world, listening to, and looking around at everything. Because I think that could be the death of us. Just start, when we look at, nothing crushes us worse than looking around. Yep. And I realized that. And so I got back to just, all right, what matters to me because I know, I'm a husband, I'm a man, I got kids, I know what's going on a little bit what's going on in the world. I can't be alone, so I need to trust I've got to get out
inside
there.
of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's I look at it this way. I think there's artists and there's acts, and I was an act for a while. I think I moved here as an artist.
You slid from artist
to act.
But the industry, like it loves this, but it almost drives you into the act.
Right.
Because you have to like repeat it. You got to do it over and over. And all of a sudden you're like wearing a mask.
Yes.
And you're not even the person that you were when you were fully in your creative artistic mode.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I remember turning in a few songs in that trying part where my office, and this is after I'd written like Don't Blink and Boys of Fall, that were the ones that I knew that fulfilled me, the ones that I play out, the people want to hear. It's never those ones that made quick number ones that made money. It's not the ones you want to go out. They want to hear, you get more, feedback from them. Man, that changed this meant something to me. And that's what really feeds me. And I was like, dang. And no one ever called me and goes, Casey, when I heard 10 rounds, it was just, it really fed my family. And it really told me, I mean, it is fun. And it lets people just release. And I totally get it. And I don't condemn anybody for doing any of that thing. I think we just all find our spot, and I'm grateful for now that I look at it. I'm just like, man, just be in your lane, stay in your lane, and do your thing, and let them do that, because you're not, what's mine is mine, and what's theirs is theirs, and just
they're different.
It's different.
I know,
and we need to be different.
I mean, just like, we do the tight end university, right?
Yeah.
And guys come, but like there is a similarity roughly amongst tight ends. But yet, when we were actually there with a whole group of them, I mean, 95 tight ends from the NFL, right? Yeah. These are the best of the best guys. Yeah. And you watch them all do stuff like, and you've done the same thing. I've watched so much football now, like the way a guy takes his first two steps, how he holds his body, the way he bends his knees. They're all different. And they all find different ways to get to what they need to do for their particular teams.
Yeah.
And we talk about that all the time. It's like, you can't be George Kittle.
Right.
And that's okay. And you can't be so-and-so, and don't try to be.
Right.
You need to be you. What are your skills? What are your assets? What can you do really well? So like, if you're not the twitchiest kind of dude, then you need to know how to body up and be a physical receiver at the second level or whatever. And if your run game isn't all that, okay, well, how can you be adequate enough to stay on a team? So it's all that kind of stuff. And it's, I think, you know, in that same way, songwriters and musicians, they have, like you say, your lane. And I think songwriting for me too is such a, and this is just me, and I can't sing a tune to save my life, but I find it such a almost magical, like, kind of thing. I was going to ask you about this. I had this in here, and I don't know if it's true. But I read somewhere where somebody was talking about you, and they mentioned 3 chords and the truth. And I don't know if you.
Well, that's an old
just a country music thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
And that's it. It's just like, yeah, they call it, you know.
Keep it simple?
Yeah. Keep it simple, 3 chords and the truth. And you know, it's definitely gotten different now. I mean, it's a lot of.
There's a lot of stuff going on right now.
Yeah, and a lot of it's about the feel, and it's the generation, the people that listen, the culture's changed, the generational, everything's changed, you know. So it's got to now it's just 3 chords in the truth, or you know, whatever. It's just try to tap into life, and life has changed. You know, life has changed for a lot of people, and it's different, and so. So, you know, now it's...
Take us back to, so I kind of get you off, the rebound, so 2012, Susan's giving you guidance. She's really the rudder on the ship.
Yeah,
like.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like that's,
yeah.
Like she's kind of catching you when you're like,
yeah.
Anyway, and so you go back, and so what are some of the songs then, and how long was that period that you kind of, you know, were in that reset period and try to get back to your true essence?
Oh yeah, that was a great time of just getting back to writing, you know, what mattered, and thankfully, and maybe even it was before them too. Maybe, you know, there's guys in my life like Eric Church and Kenny Chesney, and these guys that were good outlets. They too understood. They were more of peers that are artists that understood, you know, life, knew their audience, knew who they were in their audience. So that was somebody I didn't have to chase. I finally came to myself and was like, man, you have been blessed in this business. You had a great run. You don't have to try to prove anything. You don't. You know, they're expecting a certain song from you. You know, the best songs you're better known for are the ones that were about life. The Boys That Fall, the Don't Blinks, the Homeboy, or you know, things like that, or Right Where I Need to Be, those type songs. And I remember when I would turn in a song sometimes that were just more kind of poppy or.
Yes. I know exactly.
Very, you know, very shallow. They go, come on. They'd be like, come on, Casey, you don't do this. I go, yeah, but I want to. I want to make some money. And they're like, well, that's not. You don't make money that way. And I'm like, you know what? And I found out I don't. I don't.
You know what though? What I mean, you talk about blessing. I mean, to have professionals in that capacity that know you well enough and that kind of read it and then go. Not really you, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, gosh, I could, like, if you don't have that, then you think you're on track.
Yeah.
And like, if you're not getting feedback in that kind of.
And then a lot of that would too come from my kids. You know, they, you know, CJ, Tucker, and them would go, you're writing that now, Dad? Come on. And I'm like,
that's great.
You know,
I love that.
It would, you know, it'd be funny, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you don't buy it? No, I don't. And I'm like, so
you know, that just feels so real. You know what I mean? About the human experience, you know, being able to take that and then readjust and then kind of, you know, keep working forward into it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the human experience in a nutshell. Because whatever field we're in, that's how life seems to treat us. And those are the part of the transitions.
Yep.
Right?
And at the same time, I think about it, and even just right now, I'm thinking about it. I remember that would have been the time when CJ would start going to Iowa, and he was there 3 years before he really got a chance to be something.
Yeah.
And that was tough for him, but it was also tough for me because I've been that guy that that would, a lot of my mindset was trying to control. I wanted my kids to be happy.
Oh, for sure.
And that's all we wanted. I want our kids to be happy. And he wasn't on the field. He wasn't happy. I think he was having a good time, and he loved his roommates. He loved his friends, and he had people to go through it with. But
George would be one. George had like one catch in 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
But the difference was, I think, I don't even know how you get to that place where George is, or has always been. It's like, George never seemed to be, he never let it bother him, It never let it get him down, And that's what like you could go there and get around George and he was just happy. I don't think there's a difference between George now and when he was then. I don't think he's the exact same guy, whether he's making $100 or $1,
When we had an 800 square foot house in Addison when he was born.
Yeah.
And we had a little back porch, and he loved dinosaurs. And so he had this box full of those big plastic dinosaurs. And he would just sit out there for hours and do all these, all that kind of stuff. And the kind of just the joy he had in the freedom and just being outdoors in the sun, had his dinosaurs, and just being able to find joy in the moment. I like to think we encouraged it.
Hey, man, you guys
or at least we didn't squish it, but like that is really true. Like he had a spirit about like, wow, it's a beautiful day and the life's all good. And it just has always just, and then, his grandma Lucky, Jan's mom, she always just, life's about being able to take your good times with you.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Well, he never seemed to have his joy stolen. And I think, and that's so, it's so great. And that, a lot of credit to y'all for not squashing it, but I would see CJ's spirit and his joy he was battling. And so that worked on me. And then that's when I started delving into, it's really wild. So I started everything transitioned for me into maybe, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I need to go to church more. Maybe he needs to go to church. That's where my weirdness was going. And I thought it was more, what am I doing or what am I not doing? So I started leaning into trying to pray more and look into what are the answers, God, what are the answers? And I was going there a lot. And so I started being drawn more towards, a lot of my writings became more about faith and real life and, maybe, I don't know, hurting and things like that. And I remember I would get more into writing the kids all the time, devotionals every day. Every day I was getting into that and doing all these things and started going there. And this is after me, Susan going, you need to get back to you and what's going on. I'm like, yeah, okay. But I don't think anybody in our business is going to record anything like this and where I'm going. This is too heavy and all these things. And I remember, and I started writing some songs that little did I know that would put me in like, here I had a whole chorus and a verse of a song that I was like, no one's going to sing this. I don't even know what this is. And it was called There Was Jesus. And I wrote this thing, and then years later I would get put in the present. Here I am with Zach Williams and his producer, and he's in the CCM market. And I go, man, it's probably not your testimony, but here's a chorus, and maybe we could. And he's like, dude, man, I'm, da da da. And we write that song, and I was like, all of a sudden I came alive again. I was like, man, this is man, you know, just to get stuff out, I didn't care if it made money or anything about that. But
just to start writing again.
yeah,
like
yeah.
You really feel like it's coming from your heart.
Yeah, and it was just a writing set. And I heard him singing this song from a basement, and we put it on a recorder. And I was like, man, I drove around with that. I didn't even know CCM music made money or did anything. And next thing you know, I run into, this is down the road. This is probably getting off track here, but I run into his producer. Oh man, we put Dolly Parton on that song, and then we recorded it. And I'm like, what? What? Dolly Parton's in my genre. How in the world? I didn't try anything. It was just, things just happened. But all in that time, I've been sending out all these devotionals every day. And guys, if you just blah, 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 and get where you're into all these things, and trying to tell them how to be. And I didn't hear a lot back from my kids. A lot of, yeah, thanks, Dad, thanks, and whatever. But like in that time, I think I'm getting away from myself. I think I'm getting down the road too far. But I remember one day, again, my wife coming in one day. This is after I had gotten back to myself, and I was finding a little traction back in the music business, because I was just writing what I loved, and I liked where I was, but at the same time, I was still trying to hold on to my. Now CJ and George are out in San Francisco, and all these things are going on, and it worked out for a little bit, but I could see he was getting deflated again, and frustrated about things, and I remember I was trying to cheer him up, and it was so hard on me that time in his life. Clay's life, he had just gone through he was getting ready to have another surgery on his shoulder. You know, he transferred to schools, and Tucker was on his own, battling what kind of artist he was, trying and all this. So here I am at home, and that was my whole world, and it became all this. And I was all engulfed in that. And I was sending out my daily devotionals and where to go and how to find happiness. And I was sitting again at the table, and Susan walked in. She's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "Man, I send all this stuff out to them all the time, you know, and I don't hear back from them. No wonder they're not happy. I don't know if they're reading these things. This would make them happy. I wish they would be." She's like, "Well, can I tell you something?" I was like, "Yeah."
More truth from Susan.
I think you're going to anyway. So you might
Thanks
as
for
well.
asking, though.
Yeah.
Right?
So she's like, "Casey, you're a good dad." And I go, she goes, you know, you get that a lot. You know, you've coached them, you do all these things. She goes, "But at some point, you know," she goes, "but honestly, they know they're the Father, God, is a better father than you are. He loves them more than you do. And we are called to be stewards in this time. Just to point them in the right direction and show them what the truth is, and raise them up in the ways of their true father, and let them." And I got frustrated with that, because my relationship with God, you know, had been trying to go to church and trying to be for 20 some years, and doing all these things and raising the kids that way, but I didn't have a real true relationship of really knowing the Bible like I should. And I mean, just knowing the character of Jesus Christ and knowing who he was. So I was like, so I didn't understand a lot of that. I went to church a lot. I was religiously minding the things that you're supposed to. I was a hypocrite like everybody else, but I was going and doing the thing. And I thought that maybe would get some kind of rewards for it. I didn't discount all the other rewards I was getting, how blessed I was. My kids were unhappy. That's where I was. And she was like, I go, "So what are you talking about?" I was mad. She was like, I go, "You mean like let go and let God, like the bumper sticker?" She was like, "Yeah." I go, how do you do that? And she goes, I don't know. You gotta pray, Casey. You're just gonna have to find out. You gotta pray and ask him to reveal. How do you let go and just let you have him, God? All the things in your life, let him have it and see what he does with it or whatever. Basically, get back to what you know to do. But I didn't know anything else to do but try to help him, try to help control the situation. And I thought I did have control of it again in the transition thing. And, honestly, I don't even know how long it was. I think it was weeks later when we got that phone call in the middle of the night about Clay. And I remember going to the hospital that night just thinking that surely it'll be okay. But thankfully, the people that showed up from my church and our friends and, that I noticed in your thing where it's talking about the broken gate, and all that.
I heard you tell that story, and I just thought it was
pretty. That was another crazy thing.
Yeah.
That I didn't know we didn't know the protocol of what to do in those situations like that.
Who the hell does?
Yeah, and so we have a gate out there, and it's never been broken. I put it in because now I had a little daughter. And my wife and another daughter at the house, and we lived way off the road. And some guy had come up one day before there was a gate and was asking for gasoline, and he wasn't there for gasoline. He was a nice guy, but he was a lost guy. Let's just say that. And he needed help, and I gave him some money and sent him on. But I was like, man, I want to. So we put a gate.
Yeah.
We put a gate in, and been fine for all these years. For a while, and then for about 3 weeks, it broke. About 2 weeks. Christmas is coming up. Susan goes, man, that gate, whatever happened? What about it? And I was like, man, all right, I'll get it fixed, but it's Christmas time. Nobody's going to come out here and fix the gate. I don't know how to fix the gate. Well, people are going to be coming up and, gifts, and I just don't want people always coming up to the door. And, when I'm up here by myself, I'm like, yeah, I understand. I never got it fixed. Clay leaves this world, and then all of a sudden, people are showing up in my house, trying not to bother us, but leaving stuff and leaving, and then coming up, and I got a window there, and I could see, and I'd ask them in, and loving on us like crazy, and pointing us to the truth. The TV had never been off that much because of course, it was football season too. I don't know, man. And then right in that wake of that next little while, I remember being so broken, so lost that I was at a place like I didn't even know what to say. I was just looking out a window one night at like 3 a.m, just going, Lord, I hear all this stuff, I hear all these promises and people are texting me all these things, but where is it? Where's the comfort? What are you talking? What is it? What do I need to know? This is, and then now I could say, now here I am. How did I get to 6 years, let alone 6 hours or 6 days? But I remember in the waning wake of that and surrounding around my family somehow, between all the people that came over, my pastor had just gone through losing his son and not long, years before that, and helped me navigate, showed me in the Bible the truth about the care. Then all of a sudden it was a weird thing, like a supernatural thing where it became just, where are the answers? Oh my God, and this is what he says. This is the truth about it. He really loves it. And all of a sudden I felt me going, oh my gosh. Of all the 5 kids I have, I know my kid. I know Clay knew the Lord. I know he knew Jesus Christ. I know he was saved, and and I know that what it says here in the Bible, man, the Father really does have him. And this is, and I remember that clear as day, going, of all my 5 kids now, the only one I know is safe and sound and home is that one. I don't have to worry about him anymore. This is me, and I was just like, so then I was able to talk to the rest of them going, man, I'm done. Oh, man. It was so awesome. I mean, it truly was, and I love it. That was the most. You talk about a transition. It changed everything in my life. I don't think I've ever. When Clay went to heaven, it started a process of especially in that little while, and then and then we start getting a little bit. Here we are, 5, 6 years later. You start getting pulled back out into the lures of the world, and I sometimes I get lost, but that's why I got to go back every morning and just get back and meditate on the Word of God and who He is and all, and I'm still a lost guy looking for some peace and joy in my life, and that's where I find it, and in His truth, and I got to still go back to what He says about those He loves and what He wants for us and our fruit, and then these things, and I know that, and I repeat them now to my kids, and I can let go, like to CJ's career, It didn't, it started out so great, and all the things, and then now he's still doing what he loves, and he's still getting an opportunity, but I just don't worry about it. Like, CJ, you don't answer to me, but I'm here, I can help you, but I'm not in control like I thought I was, because if I was in control, Clay would be here.
Right.
And I'm not. So, but I know where he is, and I know I'll see him again sometime, so I don't worry, I'm okay. The worst thing about it is that there's no FaceTime. With you guys, you're still gone. You're in Detroit. That's as far as I think heaven is closer, actually. But I just, so what, so that's where we are as a family, and I think that was the biggest transition in my life, to realize that, man, I am so not in control. That was the final one that hit me so hard, that made it go, man, you are so blessed, Casey. It's not about all this time. You need to quit worrying about trying to get so much in this life, or you think their happiness revolves around that thing or whatever, and their identity in whatever they're doing. And you are not what you do, and CJ, you're not what you do. And I remember one day, CJ called me up one day, and I went, he was calling me, like, it was one of those last days in San Francisco. He was just really, really broken. And I remember it hit me. I go, but wait a minute. CJ, you guys, you were 12-0. And you had your picture, you had your silhouette on a black and gold shirt, the long-haired, golden boy, and he was mad. He goes, "What are you talking about, Dad?" And I go, "Remember that year you guys were 12-0 and you were on top of the world?"
Yeah.
I go, "So what do you?" And he goes, "So if you remember that, so why don't you just hold on to that?" And he goes, "Because that's not how it is." I go, "Guess what? That's how it is." So you got to realize who you are and whose you are, and quit putting your identity in what they say you are. Because if Clay was far beyond his years in this, and CJ still has a text he reads to this day. Clay used to encourage all of them, in such great ways. And he has this text, and I wish I still had it. I'll send it to you one day, that he was like, "CJ, you better stop reading reading the hype and reading whatever you're reading, because if you believe that you're good, that they say they're good, you're going to start believing when they say you're not good. Don't believe it. Don't know who you are, and not it doesn't revolve around this world, what they say. Your inner peace, your peace will come from somewhere else, and it's not from this world. Because that just comes and goes and comes and goes. So
you hook yourself up to that truck.
Yes, and that's what he did. And I remember that. I'm like, man, so why, if it was so great then, how come it didn't last? And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Because it doesn't last. It doesn't. I mean, it's great. It is great to be loved by the world, and you have been, and you are, and you still are. You just got to look in the right places, But
all of those things, they all evolve, change, and end.
Yeah.
I mean, for everyone, if you're an athlete, let's say, there's always a last day of your competition.
Oh man,
There always
you don't even know when it is.
You don't know. Like that last time you're playing that game, and whether you're in the NFL or college or whatever, and then all of a sudden that was the last time you ever put the shoulder pads on, you know, and there just is. And there's all kinds of things. And like I didn't realize this, but when you're like, think about it, you used to change diapers. How many diapers do you think you changed in your life? And then all of a sudden the youngest one is out of diapers. And now you take the changing table out, you're not buying diapers. And like, and I was, you know, but I still remember this with George. Like I was kind of glad to be done with it. But then there was this real sadness. Like, oh, like we're out of that stage.
Exactly.
It's never going to come back.
Exactly.
And then there was this, you know, then before they go to kindergarten, and then all of a sudden, oh, that's over, you know. So there's a last, really for everything, there's a last time. And so and I think when you were talking about living in the moment and realizing that those are transitions and stages in life that we can't control. We have no control of. We can't stop time. We can't stop them from growing up. We can't stop them from living their lives. And and eventually you learn that you don't need to or want to. You know, you want to support them and offer guidance, but they have to make all their choices. And I think even the bad ones.
The faster we let go of it all, I try to tell my kids, and I try to tell them daily, remember, you know, that, you know, I'm not, you know, you don't got to answer to me.
Right.
You know, and I'm glad you don't. You know, you're accountable to somebody else, you know, and you know, you're not going to find, I'm not going to be your happiness or your, you know, and your job might for a little while. Whatever your thing, there's not, you know, all these things that we chase that we're looking around at, you're better off, you know, is to, you know, realize that they're so short-lived, you know.
100%.
And so you got to find time, like you talking about healing. I think it's a daily thing.
Well, let's jump to that. Let me read this. And we'll and I think we're winding in, but let me do that just because.
No, I'm sorry, I get us off course.
It's okay. No, it's all right. You're a storyteller. That's what you do. All right, healing. So we're going to jump into that. So finding healing. And, you know, I think the one reason I like to include this is, honestly, Casey, when people, you know, when we get engaged with people and we start talking about healing, like there's this awkwardness to it, you know, that people like, especially men, like I probably deal with more men, and men don't want to have to talk about emotional healing. Like, you know, if I broke my arm, it's okay, you know, and I'm going to be all tough and masculine and all that stuff. But like, it's a lot like mental health in a way. It's like, if we acknowledge that emotionally we are wounded, this really hurt, I got rejected, or whatever that is, and being able to acknowledge it and have somebody to support you with it, that's kind of a foreign thing for a lot of people, especially men.
Absolutely.
Just to acknowledge it and then to say, I need some help. Like nobody wants to do that. So I throw it in a little bit here just to say, you know, like there's a song, a lyric that has always stuck with me, that I'm not sick, but I'm not well. You know what I mean? And it's this idea that, you know, whatever really, really over here, but every one of us have days that we're not well, you know, in the full modality of ourselves. And so just being able to name it. So I appreciate it. And I think, and I'm hearing just the tenets that we've got is, one, staying true to yourself and listening to your intuition and your nature, following your bliss. And then this whole theme of letting go of control, because for me, that's been, so out of the kind of mindfulness meditation camp, that is one of the core tenets, is just recognizing the only thing I can control is the choices I make and how I respond to the world.
Right.
That's really it.
Right.
I mean, you can, like other people, you know, a little bit maybe, but like the life things, that shit's just going to happen and it's just going to come. And so once you kind of do that, and then the second step is this idea of, well, how can I find joy and or the lesson in whatever's coming? Because it's coming for a reason.
Yeah.
And my job is to kind of find meaning in it and to experience it. And the more I can just welcome things in that I know I can't control, if I'm not resisting it, then I can eventually find how it's meaningful in my life and how I can use it to my advantage. So anyway, so healing refers to a process by which the body repairs itself after injury or illness, restoring normal function. It can involve tissue regeneration or repair, may also include psychological or spiritual aspects of recovery. It can be understood as the restoration of wholeness and well-being, encompassing physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional aspects. It's not just about eradicating our wounds, but about integrating them, acknowledging and embracing the parts of ourselves that we have ignored, resisted, or possibly rejected. This is the journey of becoming whole that all people find themselves in. So I kind of worked on that notion of healing. And like, I feel like the whole story that you've been telling us is like, in a way, like getting back to your true songwriting nature. Like, who am I? And when we can stand in that authentic self, right? Like, our core values are connection, authenticity, and nurture, right? And I won't go into a whole video about those, but that notion about that authentic self and being able to find it and stand in that,
Right.
like comfortably, and just own who you are,
Right.
like that in and of itself is a healing journey.
Right.
Because the culture and the world tell us who we're supposed to be. And it constantly wants us to compare that we're not good enough. And we have all these voices in our head about all that stuff. And so the notion of transitioning from doing, right, which we all have to, into just being.
Amen.
Like me just living here, filled with love, grace, and kindness, it's enough.
Right.
That in of itself, if I can just look out in the lenses I see the world at, and I see how beautiful this world is and the grace and gift it is for me just to breathe every day, everything else is just a bonus.
Right.
And then even the bad stuff, it's not really that. I mean, it is what it is. And some of it feels really tragic and some of it is, but in this grand scheme of things, still this moment I have and being present right here and feeling that energy within us that drives us.
Yeah.
And just, I'm okay right here.
That's right.
And to me, that's been kind of that part of that healing journey. And that's what I'm hearing with you too. So from your professional end, the healing journey took you into that kind of commercial side. And I don't know how you would ever avoid that. I feel like that's a classic, it's just no matter whether you're a movie star. And I mean, George has gone through that. Like all of a sudden Gatorade comes knocking, Bud Light comes knocking, and these sponsors come knocking and they want you to do all this stuff. And then you get pulled into all these things. And then all of a sudden, there's my training and my football and my preparation. And like the engine pulling the train is what you do on the field.
Yeah.
And who you are as a person.
Right.
And so, it's just so easy to get all that stuff kind of pulled around. So anyway, if maybe just we're going to move from transition just to focus it, what I feel like I've been hearing for the last, whatever we've been doing, is really your healing journey, like not just with Clay, but Clay's death was like bam, it pushed you into a different stage so that like even the biblical text, kind of what I hear, and I hear this all the time with folks that we work with, like I've read it 1,000 times, but after this situation, I read that same verse and like it had a whole different meaning to me.
Oh, amen.
Because my life experiences have changed and like, it's almost like it's in red now and it's revealed to me in a way that I couldn't before. And that's true for not just the Bible, but other, this person or this event or this experience. Like I used to really begrudge this, but now all of a sudden, wait a minute, that's not really what it is. And you can see it in a whole different light because you have a different and new experience. And that I think is that integration of what once was painful is now it's a foundational piece that I can stand on. Because I've survived it, I've endured it, I've learned it, and it's taught me lessons, and I'm a better person standing here now today, even though that was really painful and I would never have asked for it. But it's changed me in a way, and now I'm able to do different things than I could have before.
Yeah.
And so that's what I hear is your healing story. So let me just, so on that, so as far as this kind of healing, so I think both professionally and within your family, because the relationship with your kids, I mean, I identify 100% with that. Because the first 3 years George was at Iowa, I'm coaching college football, right? Yeah. How much film are you watching in the quarterback room? Like, go find out what they want. Yeah. What are you doing about this? And I had all these lists and I would send him all this stuff, right? And like, I know he got them.
That was me.
He wasn't doing shit. Wasn't doing any of it. And it wasn't until he got to year 3 and he's looking, he's going, I've only got 2 years left. The room's still pretty full with some really good players. You're like, man, maybe I need to get my shit together. You know what I mean? And then he had some conversations with some people. And I think some of the same messages that whether I had said them or maybe a coach, he couldn't hear them. But when it came from another player who had just got done and graduated, it's like all of a sudden he sat down and he goes, oh shit, this thing's not going to go on forever. And I got to change. And that was the impetus that really moved him into a different kind of focus. And I think that happens for all of us. So, sorry, I don't mean to ramble myself, but so in general, what is healing for you over all these years? Like, how would you interpret that? And like, what has been, and I think you've shared a lot of that, so you don't have to like go in too much, but like, how has that healing journey been for you, whether it's around clay or just your parenting relationship? And then I feel like too, like there's a part of you that is this music writer.
Yeah.
And it has its own voice and kind of temperament. And it wants certain things from you. There's the authentic self. And then there's this part that writes all this music, and like it has driven you in certain ways. And I almost feel like you've had a healing relationship to heal your kind of authentic, heart-centered self with this music writer.
Yeah.
In a way. So there's Casey, the music writer and artist, and that's been a relationship that's been at times maybe a struggle, and that you've had to come to terms and find peace with each other.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
That's it. I think we grow and we get refined through life, and we find out more and more, who we are and what we've been dealing with. And I think it's always been in the rest. There's different kinds of rest, to stop and really, what is going on? It's always been in that, what's going on? What am I doing, in that time? And let's find out, truly, what the answer is. And, like it even goes back to, if you want to find some peace or answers to the situation. Like you were just saying too, like I remember when CJ was at Iowa and he was wondering, man, I don't know, what am I doing? It's 2.5 years, 3 years. I don't know. I go, well, you know what? CJ, you're going to have to find out. I guess what? I know you don't want to do this, but
let me ask you this. You moved in 1991 to Nashville. What year did Right Where I Need to Be? How many years was it?
That was probably 96, 97.
Okay, so at least 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Before any major commercial hit.
Yeah.
And so, and we hear this story time and time again from people that, like, all of a sudden they are and they're like, oh, where would, it's like an overnight success.
Yeah.
And there is no overnight success.
No.
I mean, maybe like 1 percentile, but for the most part, people are grinding like hell.
Yeah.
On the back end, like you're working at the museum or at the Hall of Fame or whatever, and then at the Bluebird.
Yeah.
I mean, washing dishes and cooking.
Yeah.
And you took it because Bluebird is like the host of like all this stuff. And then eventually you end up being on stage, but like nobody sees how many trays of dirty dishes you took, and all the other things that crazy. And then how about having 2 or 3 kids and having roommates?
Oh man.
All that stuff. And so like, I just think, people want to think like it's just going to happen, and so
I think
I think our boys had the same thing a little bit.
That's kind of a lot of the new generation is that. I mean, I'm not saying they don't work hard, but there's different ways to get out there and be seen now.
Yeah.
Between, as far as the music business goes, in the TikTok world, Instagram world, you could
100%, yeah.
all that stuff. It was definitely a grind to get where you were back then, and I told CJ back in the day, I was like, you're gonna have to go breach your frustrations with a coach or the coaches or whatever. Yeah. I'm not there. I can't. And he's like, oh, I don't want to. I don't know. Well, you're gonna have to step into it and see what, and then only then will you find you'll get some answers, whatever. But sitting back and, I used to healing for me in my life. Everything changed for me. The biggest transition for me, and I hate that it was this, but I knew of a lot of things, but now I just know in my core
it's different
more than yeah.
There's knowledge, cognitively
yes.
aware, and then there's a heart-centered like experience of it.
Yeah, and I say it this way too, it's like, for me, it was like, yeah, I believed in Jesus now, but now I believe him. I read the word of God and I go, gosh, that is real to me. So, and I remember it happened honestly because I had to know the answers when someone you desperately love that much. And my mom, like it was my mom first, but I she was older, and it went through, she was suffering here with a lot of junk. So it was easier to let that go. But with Clay, I had to know so many things, and I just started delving into that truth, and all of a sudden, and I remember, here was a big thing for me. One of those nights, because like a lot of us, especially men, we got a lot of pride and we want to work it out ourselves and we'll get there. But I remember when CJ came home, he was on the road. They were playing Seattle or something, and he came home the next day. Kyle and them let him just go home, and he didn't even go to the game. We watched it on TV, but he was so mad and so broken. And in that week or so that he was home, by the end of the week, I was so conditioned now to going, well, let's find the answer. He was so mad about this, of what happened and what he could do. And I overheard him talking to Tucker or something. And I said, okay, what would you do to this kid if you can get your hands on him? And he goes, well, man, I go, I mean, honestly, if you had time to think, CJ, there's too much good in you to really do. If you had him in a room, you wouldn't give him back I go, that you wouldn't do it. And I go, and you know what? Here's the deal. I go, let's find out, what does God say about this? So I opened the Bible and I went through it, and I was looking for searching, and I was looking where, in Proverbs and another part of the Bible where he said, he says, vengeance is mine. And he says, and actually, heaping good on your enemy is like pouring hot coals on their heads, and I go, why? I go, do you trust that this wasn't outside of him, that he knows what's going on? And he goes, yeah, I do, but I think, and I go, no, there's no buts. You can't believe something. I go, and I go, vengeance is his, justice is his, I mean, whatever comes, we don't have to worry about what happened, how this happened and why, because that'll kill you, that'll kill me, it'll just stress us out. And we'll, and I was telling him this in his tears and my tears, and we were talking it out, and I was like, this is what we got to believe this, CJ, to let it go. And then when he walked away, I went, wait a minute, that was for me.
I thought that's where you're going.
Yeah, and I went, oh my gosh, all the anger, anything I ever carried around in my life, from my parents' divorce and the people that my mom brought in the house and the junk that I had to see, and then it goes up, and I'm just and always emailing, worrying about this, and then worried about my happiness and what we got to get the world right. All of a sudden I was like, oh my God, if you are truly who you say you are, then I got to believe this, and I can let this stuff go. And that was a biggest point in my life where I could rest and I could start giving in. And it wasn't long after that, this guy from this barn at the church, they had a group of men that he reached out. And we meet every Thursday night, we hang, we just pray for each other, we talk about life where we are, and we share. And just help each other, and it's not a religious experience. And I was like, it's not really me. I don't need help. I got this.
Right.
But it was a couple of days later, I was like, I got to go. And I finally, when you just surrender into that rest and just like going, no, I don't have it all together. And I think if those were gigantic
itself right there.
Yeah, it was like, I don't have it, and it truly does. And then I was able to, and honestly, that was when, and it's not just a thing, it was a crazy, overwhelming deal where in that whole little thing. And if that's what I'm going to believe, if that's what I know in my core, because I could not be here if this wasn't, looking back through my life, if, this wasn't, then I wouldn't be. And I remember I was sitting in a preliminary hearing of this kid. Right. And I was in a courtroom, and I didn't even want to be there, but I was just there because this lawyer said it would look good if you were there before they arraigned this kid and all this stuff. And I looked over and I saw him in an orange suit. I didn't want to look at him. And I saw him sitting there and I went, wow, that's a little kid. I mean, that's a kid.
Yeah.
I don't care what he's been through. He's been charged with all these things. I was looking at him, and this guy was trying to defend him, and he was talking about him and his broken home and his dad and whatever and all these things. And I was like, and it just came over me, and I was like, this kid, he was never loved. He was never loved like my kids. He didn't even know. He was trying to find love, man. And these people bringing him in to tell him, this is what, if you do what we hang with us, and we'll, his dad was out of his life. His mom was, right. And it was just like, oh my gosh, my heart broke, and I started to weep in that courtroom, and I was like, man. And then that whole thing I was trying to sell, CJ, vengeance is mine. You don't have to. I was like, Lord, man, I just, everything, forgiveness and grace and everything came out from that kid. And I knew that justice wasn't mine anymore. Of everything I'd ever held in my life, I look back, that's where my whole life was always going, was probably to this point where I can rest. And that's the only chance you're going to get healing. If you can get brought down to the end of yourself on the ground. I was so broken that all I had was, was to go to those deep places of prayer that I didn't even know. As I heard somebody say, like, he goes, you're really not praying until you forget that you are, and I didn't even know how to pray really until I was so desperate. And then stuff started. And I think in that rest where you can just get away in that meditation where for me, it's just the word of God. If I could find out in the character of Jesus, what did you do about these days, or what did you say to start your day? How do you do your thing? What do you say? So I yield, and my rest comes now, and I'm good at preaching it. I'm not good at going there, but is yielding to what He says. Yielding to, for me, it's the Holy Spirit. Before I do anything anymore, before I say what I want to say, and or step where I want to step, or what is the right thing, and even in the song process, I can still write the good song, or I don't mind, drinking a beer is still I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with any of these things. I like that. I'm just more aware of what am I chasing? What do I need to, what is best to put out there? So like when I'm with younger guys, I still get with people and I mentor them, and if they want to, I don't condemn them for wanting to do it. Well, let's just find the best. I don't need to write that song again. I want to write something that if I can help you write a song about this, I'm not going to do it just for, and I don't care. I don't mind going to the places that are still fun, but I'm just a little bit more aware of just trying to redeem the person in the song or whatever. Yeah.
Well, let me, I guess as you were talking, one of the things that came for me, part of the letting go for me in my life has been, because, kind of as a lawyer and all that, it's all about, certainty and having all the answers and all that stuff. And I think there's a couple poems, but I won't go into them, but one of them it's a letter to a young poet. And in that, it's this young poet in Paris asking for guidance from this experienced writer. And like, how do you know about this? And it's like the same stuff. Like, how do I make money? And how do I do this? And when do I, and the experienced older, he writes him back this letter. And the essence of it basically is, I beg you to not hold your quest for the answers too tightly, and instead live gently into the questions.
Wow.
And, you know, that for me just was like, you know, life's not about certainty. I mean, like your faith for you is a certainty. You know, I mean, I get that.
No,
But
I
even-
understand. That's
But even that faith doesn't give us an absolute guidebook to life. You know what I mean? It you know, we have a path and
totally.
you're following your heart, but it's like, maybe I don't need all that certainty. And then it goes on to say, as we live gently into the questions, and know this, that even if the answers to some of your questions were revealed right now, you're probably not in a place that you would understand them. And as you live gently into these questions and just are okay and accept the uncertainty and ambiguities of life, there's a grace that comes over it.
Yes.
And then when those things are revealed, you're going to go, oh, that's what that was about. Because life at 25 is so different than 55.
Yeah.
And just there's certain things we can't understand at different stages. And so don't put too much energy into it. And so it's almost like you're in a tug of war with all of these concepts and all of this angst. And the message basically is just let go of the rope.
That's the key. And that is the key to life.
Just, you don't have to play tug of war with all that emotional bullshit.
That's right.
And just let go of it and let them do all their shit over there and just carry that love and joy in your heart.
That's right.
And just, it is okay.
And it's for today. That's today.
And all I have right now
Is today.
is this moment with Casey Beathard.
And how, I mean, honestly, I mean, like there's nothing anymore I could think about. To me, like this is living, this is so fulfilling. I love this. I just love getting with people and talking about life and sharing life and maybe I could, oh man, this is so lame. But you talk about, I was going to say that, but I mean, that's what it is. If I could take a pearl out of this,
It's the hidden pearl.
that's what it is.
You know, that's why we call this.
That's what I'm saying. I'm looking at it going,
because everyone has this hidden pearl, within them
yeah.
to find their own healing, to bring joy to the world. Like it's there. It's just that a lot of people, it's all closed down.
Yeah.
And we just free our hearts
Right.
and open ourselves up to that.
Right.
Like it's amazing what your light can shine.
Yeah. And then you just take it out to the world that I just see this, so the perspective is so different anymore through all the blessings I've had in my life, whether, you know, it's, you know, the provision or whatever, you know, just the growth, the refining is as important as the hit songs. I look at, I even see a different perspective. It's just changed my whole perspective on it all. And I go, man, you know, if I look back at my whole career of songwriting, and I think it came to this when they gave me this Hall of Fame award, that I never saw coming. I never tried to do. I just did what I did. And next thing you know, I look at it as, it's so subjective for me, you know, that is, music is so, you know, how did I get here? I mean, why are they putting me in this? I mean, because there's so many great songwriters. That means I took it as, you know what, there was just enough, maybe I've made enough friends that they voted me in, you know, and if that is just a blessing to know that people liked me enough to put me in. I mean, I don't know, or I did something in their life, or I don't know, but I know that if nothing else, it's all the songs that just put me on different platforms. You know, the song that you thought was so silly, it opened up a door to get into the next room, because God saw down the road that you might have a platform to speak to more people and say, you know, look, this will help you get past whatever you're getting past. Because these things are going to come into your life. There's going to come an end to something in your life that you're going to have to deal with.
100%.
So maybe you can help people I'm going to give you this, forget the songs. Forget the songs. It might be about this day. This speak what you could speak into the lives of people listening out there, like for those ending times, for those surrender times, for those what am I dealing with? It's something you don't have control with, and just like you said before, just open up your hands and go, look, I'm out. I'm out. I don't have anything left. What am I supposed to glean from this? You know?
And even with other people, it's like I gave up, like, you know, in the early days, like, you know, giving them a fix or doing this and all that. And it's like, all I'm going to do is help you hold up a mirror to you and see what's going on for you, and help you make your choice about, because what's healing for you is going to be different. There's some general guidelines, you know, that I think are helpful, but like you have to find your path.
That's right.
And all we can do if we're just present with them and just holding them in that love or whatever.
That's right.
Without judgment, and give them space to, and then like people will find their way. Well, let me rotate. So our last category, so we're not here too long, is about peak performance or optimal performance. And we say optimal rather than peak, because peak kind of seems like comparing to everybody, like, you know, world records. What we're really striving for is, what is my personal optimal performance? So let me read this kind of thing. So and a lot of it's physical, but a lot of it's not. So this refers to the highest level of accomplishment or ability an individual or group can achieve in a specific task or activity. It's about operating at your best, utilizing your full potential, and consistently exceeding life's expectations. This state is often characterized by a sense of flow, we can talk about that, but where one is fully absorbed and engaged in the activity leading to optimal results. It has three things: maximizing potential, consistency, doing it over and over and over for a length of time, and it's more than just results. While the results are important, performance of this nature emphasizes personal growth, learning, and the development of skills. So the process itself is what transforms us. Right. In that idea. So once we hit that, if we can sustain it over a long time. And so those are the kind of things that, so like, in case that, you know, you being in the Hall of Fame and all the stuff that you've done, I think most people would look and go, here's a dude that has performed at his own optimal performance at a pretty high level for a long time. Right. And, you know, as we're talking here, because one of my questions was like, do you look back on your career and see that? And in a way, I think the analytics and the stats and all that, you have to say, well, sure, you know what I mean? Because that's like, there's not a lot of people that have done what you've done, right? You know? And then on the other hand, I still see you though, looking through the lens of this human being, Casey, this mortal, with all of your life experiences and your deep faith. And in another way saying, you know, like, all those numbers are great, and I love writing music. And if it touched somebody's heart and helped them, I'm really grateful for that. But on the other hand, like, have I been the very best husband I could be? Have I been the very best father I could be? Have I been the very best friend I could be? And in a way, you know, like, I'm here in your life, that circle, it's evolving to that, like, because you've had that success, it's like, I can kind of let go of it. And I can stand here grounded in this. And the peak performance that I really want to achieve is to make sure that everybody in my life that I care about knows how much I love them. Yes. And that I'm living with integrity and honesty with them. Yeah. And for me, that's now kind of that optimal performance. So you have the professional Casey, clearly, I mean.
Yeah, and I think that was a lot of, that I look back at the start of my life, and there was a lot of regimented stuff to do. And back when I started, I used to write twice a day.
Well, I was going to tell us a little bit, what is your writing process? Because I think people, did you ever read, there's a book called The War of Art? Yeah. And I mean, those books about resistance, and I have some stuff, and we probably won't get into all that, but I mean, writing on a consistent basis, whether it's novels or music or whatever, like, man, you've got to be at the desk on a regular basis. You got to put time in, and then you just know that, I don't know, 80% of what you're doing is never going to go anywhere, but it's part of the fodder to get you there. But what's your, like, when you're really in a writing mode, how many days a week, what time of day?
Yeah, and I think it depends also on your, you know, there's a lot of, you know, for me, it's just been just a thing that came. I would write, and I would look forward to writing and playing my guitar before I moved even to Nashville. Mm-hmm. I just, something that I loved, I had to get out of me. You know, just watching life and doing life and hearing life going on. Oh, that's something. I got to get that out, see where that leads to. And then you move to Nashville, and you know how to sing cover songs and things like that, but you're still living life. And for some reason, I couldn't stop getting it out of me and trying to make a song out of everything I saw.
Right.
And then someone takes notice and they want to sign you up into the commercial publishing thing, and I got a publishing deal, and and then it becomes they tell you there used to be a time in Nashville where you would write. They'd put you in a room with somebody because you'd be more productive that way. If you didn't have an idea, that person will.
Or at least a startup,
Yeah.
something, yeah.
You go from 10 to 2, and you start another one at 2, a new person. And I used to go to 10 and 2 every single day, for they called us lunch pail writers. We would go just write and do it. And I did that a lot, and a lot of it, was, some of it was just talking, and you never really, I don't have a great idea or whatever. But then, some hits became out of those, came out of those. So that, that's what I did. But I was also more of a kind that I liked, I didn't want to, for some reason, there was an innate thing where I didn't want to be steered into that direction of what it's supposed to be. So I would keep things up to myself. There were some titles, some songs that I was like, I can't write this with anybody else because I know it'll get steered into that way that I don't want it to go.
It's like a mixing bowl with other spices.
Exactly.
It's going to change the flavor.
Yeah, it's going to change the flavor. You're going to make it, well, we can't write that because you got to, now this is where the chorus has got to come. Right. Or it's got to be this many beats per minute, it's just like, I don't care about that. So then it became where I would just, my optimal performance deal I made with my publishers, like I need time by myself. I need to start, I realized I needed to be by myself and get things out on my, and that's what I started doing. And I would do it. And honestly, I would do a lot of thinking and a lot of creating outside on walks.
Sure.
And on mowers, on bush hogs and things like that. And that became my thing. And so
I think that's super, like,
but
being away from whatever you want to do is like creating space for like almost your subconscious to start percolating things around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, I do think if you don't do it, you're going to get used to not doing it. Mm. But I love to, and I got to make time. I got to make time every morning for my time in the morning to be alone and in the Word, and it shapes my day. And I got to make time every day to sit with a guitar, whether I'm playing, just getting stuff out, just getting that, see what comes out and see what titles have. And then, I'm at my peak performance is when I'm getting out and listening and watching and getting. Last night I went to a BGA football game just to sit around real people and listen what comes out of their mouth and see what they're interested in, because those are my songs, and I got to go live and see what's going on, what matters to people, to see what's worth writing. And so but you got to go do that. You got to go put time into it. If you want any kind of rest or peace to come out of it, you got to go, if that's what you're seeking, you can't just neglect those times where input has to happen, life has to get in. You got to go notice life if you want to,
right,
find any rest.
There's I can't remember who it was, but there's a kind of a writing coach person, and they always talk, if you want to write great stuff, live an interesting life.
Yeah.
You have to get out and go mix it up and get dirty and see the world and bump into people and have experiences, because then it changes you internally, and you're never the same once you've done those travels or experiences and all that kind of stuff. And so you don't know in the moment, like, that's going to turn into this, but yet that experience somehow it shapes you, and then it fastens the net. Like you said, the next door opens, and it's a new relationship, and the way in which you experience that one, and all of a sudden, all those things click together, and then there's this idea.
Yeah,
And then,
exactly.
Then the muse comes to visit.
And you know what? And during it, and then it was in that time too. Like you know, of course, my son Tucker, who's a creative type. A few years ago, he told me. I mean, he's coming from one of my kids. He told me, it's like, Dad, you know, you don't have to. You know, he goes, all you got to do is just be today. You don't have to go. You know, try to change the world or go do something. You know, we don't have to go do something. You know, save a person or do anything religious or anything like that. He goes, you know what? All we have is today, and you just got to go out and go live in life. If you got to think it's, but I would encourage you to get out and just go see what is out there for you, whether it's at Home Depot, but pay attention. And he goes, and just pay attention, because there might be someone there that just doesn't have a smile on, and just you touching them, asking them how they are. That might be all you're here to do. Right. Just listen to somebody today. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is you telling me this? And he's, yeah, I'm just so grateful for that. You know, like you must.
Well, there is this, it's almost a perspective toward life is like taking delight in all things big and small. Like,
yeah.
And just, I mean, you're present and just, but the notion about paying attention, I don't think we can overemphasize that. It's like we so get dazed in, whether it's on our phone or whatever, or our mind is just wheeling. But if we can just disengage that, even like you said, I'm going to Home Depot to pick up some nails, like just really experience it. Like see the people.
Exactly.
See the person that's the clerk at the, you know, and just like, what's going on with her or him, and like just like feel it. Like
why can't you do exactly like you said this a lot of times, but just honestly, I mean, it's just love them.
Right.
Love them. I mean, I mean it literally. Walk out in love everywhere you go and see what happens.
You know, when I'm able to kind of like, because I do my morning meditations and do all those things, and like that, it just feels like this warmth, right?
Yeah.
And when I get to that energetic level, for me, it's like it's like seeing the world is just, it's almost like,
oh man.
I mean, not like I'm on drugs in that kind of way. It's
exactly.
different. But like when I get all like, I got to do this, here's my checklist, I got this, I got all these calls and all that stuff. It's just so analytical and all that.
Right.
I don't see the world. Everything's just like hard pay. It's this. But like when I do that, it's almost like everything's got this little glow to it.
Yes.
And I see a person, and like no matter what they look like, in my head I'm going, you are like the most beautiful person in the whole world. You know what I mean?
So true.
It's just like, and so if I can get to that frequency, you know what I wanted to ask you? So George has like a soft tissue person that helps work on, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was with them a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about, you know, frequencies now of the vibration.
Yeah.
And then frequency of the light, you know, so they have, it's built in with a red light, and then it hits it. And so when you hit things with a different frequency on the muscle, it changes the way in which the muscle relates to the nerves and all this kind of stuff. So there's kind of all this technology and all that. One of the things I've always wondered about playing guitar is that, you know, there is this real vibrational.
Yeah.
And so like I've always had this kind of feeling like, you know, that when you're next to that kind of vibration, whether it's kind of drumming or even the piano, but there's like a physical feeling that's connected to music. I mean, that's what, like, I'm a grunge, hard rock, classic rock kind of, but like real bass, you know, and I don't mean to discount other stuff. I just mean, like you can hear the drum, you hear bass guitar, and like there's this vibration kind of thing. And just when you're playing that as an artist, do you have like, is there this vibrational connection that it just feels like there's this soothing kind of like, and you almost like your heart rate and your energetic level, like kind of intersects with the guitar in kind of a way that it like changes you as you relate to the guitar. But I don't know if that's true or not, because I can't.
I think so. I think it just, it definitely inspires you in different ways. Picking up a guitar and feeling what vibe it gives off that day, just where you are, it could change everything. And I get inspired by picking up the electric guitar and plugging it in and getting a different thing and just playing it until that thing comes and you just know, or it takes you somewhere.
And it's almost like the vibrations themselves release the energy in your body.
Totally.
And then the body starts to communicate to you.
Exactly. I think that's, and that's what you got to take time to do. That's what I love to take time to do. It can't sometimes just be manufactured. I always like to, anytime I collaborate with someone, I like to go see what comes before I get there. Yeah. You know, I got to know, I can't just go, okay, let's, it gets hard that way sometimes. So I like to spend some time alone and see what I have and it's, you know, see what is given to me.
See what's in the tank. Okay. Well, let's see. We've been rolling here for, okay. So just as we're kind of wrapping up and transitioning, anything else about just the writing process? And then just off camera here, we were chatting about kind of the resistance and the industry and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, just give you kind of maybe, is there any other things that we haven't talked about that you feel are important as it relates to kind of the writing process and kind of trying to, just the pressure at staying at this. And, you know, I guess what I was feeling too, when I was reading through all your stuff, like after you've had these hits, like now there's all this pressure to have, like before those, you could just write.
Right.
And you were hoping that something might take off. Right. But now you're Casey Beathard.
Right.
The guy with all these big hits. And like now I've got to, like every time I pen something, it's supposed to be, because before, like, I don't know, I mean, there's a bunch of songs probably that are in the trash can somewhere.
Oh yeah, there's
like thousands. And so like how many, you know, and so now it's almost like you don't have the space to write maybe the 8 or 9 that aren't going to make it and the one that might, you know what I mean? Because you're Casey Beathard. So that's all good. But anyway, anything else about the writing process or just the industry and like trying to maintain, I guess, some kind of life normalcy without going crazy? Yeah. And yet, you know, there's a magical kind of element to an artist staying in the creative process.
Yeah.
And you have to be intentional and deliberate about creating space for your heart and your mind and your spirit and your energy to step into that little entity, whatever that looks like for each person, and to let that creativity take on its own life.
Yeah. I think it's really important for longevity and for a longer career to make, you know, stay true to yourself, to definitely don't listen too much to everything that's going on, because you start chasing that, you're gonna, it's just not gonna pay off. It's just not. I've tried it. I've done that. I've gotten sucked up in it. If you're in the barrel and you're hot at the time, it might work for a song or two, but it doesn't pay off in the end. It doesn't. It's always that thing. Everybody's always looking for that other thing. You know, what's the new thing? But nobody loves you until somebody loves you. But once somebody loves you, then everybody loves you. You know, so I think it's important to.
Which it comes back to what you were telling CJ.
Yeah.
Like if you're attached to this guy at Iowa who was 12-0 and all of the glory.
Yeah.
And you're listening to that, then when things are ugly, then you're going to listen to that.
Exactly.
And it's really like, it's almost like, I think of it, you know, the high board diving. They throw out the high and they throw out the low.
Yeah.
It's almost like in life, we got to do the same thing.
Exactly.
Like don't listen too much to when it's great and don't believe all that. You know, stay grounded in who you are. And then at the same time, if things get on the other side of things, don't believe that either.
That's right.
And so just navigating that and trying to stay in this zone in the middle where you, like you said, being true to yourself and not overly attaching to the highs and not letting yourself get bought into the lows.
That's right. And try to lose, you know, let it go. I mean, for me anymore, I think I spend a lot of time on, it's not so much the quantity anymore and then going to get with, you know, trying to get on records anymore. It's more, I just spend a lot of time lately with things that intrigue me to try to write. Yeah. And I try to get it to where I love it. I love it. I mean, I love what's going on here. I love this story. I love this thing. And it doesn't kind of fit out there, but that's okay. When somebody that I think would or could sing this, or I want to share this with, I will. But I can be patient.
But the writing process, you're not trying to set a deadline for this.
No, that's right. Yeah.
And as long as it feels good here,
Right.
then that's going to be okay. And whether anybody else likes it or not.
That's exactly right.
And more often than not, somebody will like it, because if it came from your heart, then you're playing with 3 chords and the truth.
That's right.
And you got a chance.
That's right.
Okay. Well, let's do this then, just to honor all that. I had a few questions, but I think we've covered a bunch. I wanted to, so we talked about the Hidden Pearls, and you were kind of mentioning that already. Yeah. So we named this the Hidden Pearls when we were getting started, the podcast, with this idea. Our original mission statement for the podcast itself was sharing the untold stories of the people and communities impacted by social and environmental injustice. And we really, so every year then we had veterans on, and then we did a nonprofit and all those kind of things. But the vision that we had for it was literally like this pearl in a clam buried in the muck. And what we wanted to do was to like reach in and pull the clam out and open up and reveal this pearl that we believe lives within everybody. Yeah. And so we always ask at the end, have you seen any hidden pearls lately? And so for us, that really means about what's 1 or 2, maybe just one thing in your life right now that brings you to make you feel alive and or like maybe gives you hope?
It's I think more than anything, and than I ever thought before in my life, is that I know in my heart of heart that this is not all there is. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not worried about, I don't live so much for here as just to pass on hope for, people. It's not there's always, you can't take it all with you, it truly is. There's nothing more important in life than being, honestly, like we're saying, I just think passing on that hope that this is not all there is, and that you don't have to defend yourself and everything. Just open yourself to love that person you're with. And so I could let go of any kind of bitterness or pride and that stuff. I could just, why not serve? I'd rather serve than be served, because I know now in my heart of hearts that's what blesses me more than anything, is giving rather than taking, And that just brings me more joy than it ever has in my life. So I'm grateful that because our days are numbered. I watched my dad leave this world in the last few years, and one of my sons, and I look at it like, man, it's just, whether you're 86 or 22 years old, I was thinking, man, that just went fast. I remember when my dad was laying there and he'd go, gosh, Casey, man, how'd you get so old there? And I was like, Dad, old? You're the one old, and a few days later he was gone, and I go, but it hit me. I was like, man, it's so fast. 86 or 20, I go, there really no difference. To me, there was just no difference. I was like, he was here, now he's gone, and we just never know. So don't put all your hope in the things of this world, but put hope in what, how can you change this world?
Yeah, do what you can in your circle. Well, I heard you quote about this. I was listening to one of your other things. I think you mentioned the quote that mortality swallows all of life.
Well, yeah, life gets, is like,
as our mortality, all of us,
it gets swallowed up by life.
All of us are going to die. All of life gets swallowed, within this notion of mortality, because we all end. Yeah. And so, like, we don't have to grieve this particular loss or that. And
there was there's a part in the Bible where it says in 2 Corinthians 5, and it says where Paul was, battling, and he's like, look, we are only in these tents for a little while. Yeah. And then we get swallowed up by life. When he goes, I know when I leave this tent, I will get swallowed up by life. And that was such a game changer for me when Clay left, because I was like, wait a minute. he's swallowed up by life. Now he is truly to let off the anchor, and just how great is that? So then that just gives me hope that just helps me get through every day. Just go, wait a minute, come on, do you really want to hold that? Do you really want to, is it really worth it to be mad at that guy or jealous or why?
Why am I grinding over that? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, then closing. We always do a donation to a charity chosen by our guest. So just, do you have a favorite charity that would?
Franktown Open Hearts in Franklin, Tennessee. It's just the underprivileged kids. It's a community center for all the underprivileged that these kids are just one reason or another haven't been dealt the right cards. They were all the kids I used to coach in when I was coming up, and my kids were coming up. Clay's best friends were part of Franktown, and yeah, it's called Franktown Open Heart.
We'll get more information on that, and we'll do a donation in the name of the Beathards over there for that. So, all right, any last final closing words or insights that we haven't gotten to? And I know there are a lot of them, but anything in closing after our conversation that's kind of riding with you that we may not have spoken?
No, I just really appreciate our relationship and being able to meet you, and just how it all makes, how it all has come full circle and
Pieces of the
and I appreciate the friendship that George and CJ have had, and it's just a remarkable, and what a great guy.
He has been as tried and true as you can possibly be.
Well,
and he's such a, what's fun about him too, he's such a unique kind of human, in his own way.
He's a different cat.
He's a different cat.
He's pretty confident whatever he is, he
is fully who he is.
He is. He definitely is, and that's what I love him for. But he absolutely loves George, and it's just one of his favorite guys ever in the world, and I appreciate the loyalty and the friendship and it's I remember I'll never forget my living room that day, that draft day, when CJ got drafted. I was ready to go to bed, and then it wasn't long after that, Kyle called and he was like, "Oh yeah, hey Clay," picked up the phone again. I was like, I heard him goes, well, they just do things different there at Iowa. He goes, but as far as athletes and teammates, he goes, I don't think there's any better out there. And loyal guys, he goes, he's the best. So, and I go, what was that about? And he goes, they were asking about George.
Oh.
And I was like, because, you know how it is there, whatever, that you get, you don't get all the opportunities as you do anywhere else, but obviously, George, and he was so bought in and did everything you're supposed to do, like as far as a blocker, as good as you could probably do, and caught the balls that he was throwing. You just don't get many opportunities, but so that you don't know what you're getting. But I remember when him saying that, the thing that stood out to me, he goes, George is like the best kind of teammate you can ever have. And I'm like, dang, and that means that for me, that's like friendship too.
Yeah, for sure.
That's one of the best compliments you can have. And I think if any scout was going out scouting for people, they go, what kind of guy is he?
Well, that's, it was CJ's, the Niners came to work him out at the Iowa facility.
Oh, yeah.
And then, I don't know, somebody else was supposed to show up, and then CJ called George, and they'd been out kind of late the night before, and he goes, George, I got to have a receiver. And George's like, oh my God. Okay, so he's over there like at 8 a.m., like hungover. Yeah. And then he's running all these routes. And then it was after that the people are like, who is this dude? And then they start watching little films. So that's how those little pieces all just accidentally kind of fall together.
You never know how things are going to go, but they do go. And next thing you know, here we are.
Here we are. All right. Well, Casey, I appreciate it very much. Thanks for sharing your story. And I know we wove through some different things and all that, but I really appreciate just being honest with us and all that kind of stuff.
love it.
And
Thank you.
I'm gonna ride that 3 chords and the truth thing. I think that's kind of a just simple, know who you are and just speak the truth.
Yeah.
And you don't have very much to worry about.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a wrap here at the Old Hidden Pearls podcast. Thanks for joining us. Casey, thank you. And yeah, I think that's all we got. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that show with Casey Beathard. I'm just gonna, a couple of things that I took from it, if you guys did or not. So I think one of the core lessons in his process was this lesson about letting go of control. So the illusion of control, because we're really not. The only thing we control in life is our choice about how we're going to respond to what life gives us. And so Casey explains that, and I thought his experience moving from kind of a cognitive recognition of these theories into a real heartfelt, embodied knowing of it, that differences was really paramount for him and how he went through that. The other kind of some of the themes that I really took away was him finding kind of a purpose and a meaning in the whole thing. Obviously not that he would ever want to lose a son in that way, but that there has been a driving force that has united it in a way that they've given meaning to it. And so I thought his story about that was really good. Obviously he's a deeply, profoundly embedded in his faith, in the Christian tradition, and this idea of being able to trust in a higher power assisted him in that letting go of process. And then we talked about the industry just a little bit, and he talked about a period of his writing career in which he got a little bit caught up with the pressure of writing additional #1 hits. I think he'd had 5 or 6 #1 hits by then. And he got a little bit off track and lost touch with his purpose in writing and really kind of away from following his heart and trying to find some kind of formula that would sell. And then how he had to reset that. I know his wife, Susan, kind of slapped him and got him right. But anyway, it took him a couple of years, but he rebounded from that. And so I think that story is in the relationship about trying to find kind of optimal performance was really powerful. So I think you'll really find that. And I think it's I found it to be extremely genuine and authentic, and the idea of trusting your heart and knowing the self. So I hope you enjoyed it as well. Let us know what you think. Thank you.